Wednesday, October the 18th, 2017. The first item on the agenda, I do not have the minutes for October the 11th to approve. Diana was out, and I'm still putting them together, to be honest with you. So, actually, I'm going to skip up because it's somebody's birthday, so he wants to go first. The town treasurer, I told you, you weren't supposed to come. Mr. Pillow, what do you got going on with Article 20?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Board. I'm just here to supplement my tax title budget by $10,000. We've had some unforeseen foreclosures in basically a year that has really never occurred before. So I blew through the $15,000 budget I have already, so I'm seeking another $10,000 to get me through the rest of the year. And the money's basically going to be there for some more foreclosures and to put, unfortunately, put more people into tax title come June. That's it.
What was the word, sir?
Tax title in June.
Is the town going to be able to cover you?
Yeah, should be.
So
Question?
you've spent $15,000 going after people who haven't paid their taxes.
We're in the process of redoing how we take people then tax title and when we put them into foreclosure. So this year, we've currently just put 21 people into the foreclosure process. And by doing that, each foreclosure is, we have to submit a check to the court
Right.
for $515. So between that and the current eviction that I had to do,
I guess the question is, in the past, what I thought happened is, we put this money up front.
yeah,
Now, when you want to settle this,
Yeah.
they have to pay us back.
correct.
So this is really not extra money you're spending, it's kind of extra money you're advancing, because when they pay their taxes or we take over the property,
Yep.
that money comes back, but it goes in the general fund, not your account.
Right. But that process could be a year.
No,
a
great,
year and
it's
a half.
timing wise,
Yep.
that's why I say, we're really advancing money.
Right.
This is not spending money, because for them to get the property, the house, the dog, the cat, whatever you foreclosed on, they have to pay money, and that will include the expenses here.
Absolutely.
So we'll get it back, you just will never see it, because it goes into the
Right, it
general
goes in.
fund.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yep.
Motion favorable.
Aldo, you had a question?
I just have a question.
Just a second, gentlemen.
How much did you use this year, this past year?
In 2000 FY7,
Fiscal 17.
we used probably a little more than $1,000.
You used a little more than $1,000 in fiscal 17.
Yeah.
So how much you anticipate using for fiscal 18?
So we had a budget of 15 that were about $80 short of spending, and then I anticipate another $10,000.
So
from now to
you had, let me back it up again. In fiscal 17, how much money did you need to put in for the foreclosures? $1,000, and I can understand.
We didn't do
why
any
you-
foreclosures in fiscal 17, that's why.
There were none.
No.
So how do you anticipate needing this much money? You had 15,000 in your account, so am I to assume that 14,000 has fallen back to the town?
Yep.
Okay. How did you assume you're gonna have as many as you anticipate?
I already did 21.
These are on the books?
They're on the book, 21 are on the book, and we probably have another 5.
Thank you, thank
to
you.
go. So,
Bobby?
Does subcommittee have a recommendation?
Never came before the general government subcommittee, we never came up. We had a meeting.
I don't know what tax title falls under, so.
What falls under general?
It would be under general government.
I am. That's why I know it never came up.
Yeah.
And I concur with,
I do too, I just,
So-
just a
so
matter
I-
of procedure, is usually ask the subcommittee
Yep.
to meet with people who sponsor articles.
This would come under
So I
financial,
just ask
Yeah.
questions.
come under financial, Mr. Sarah McCauley is the chair.
Oh.
Out of fairness, it's rarely just.
No, not, that's last
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Right now, you're
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
What- Yeah, sorry, Jerry, go ahead.
in light of what we've just been through with the water company and everything, if this comes up, this is perfectly acceptable in my opinion, and I.
And it's gonna be a recouped expense to the town. We're just laying it out for
I
them.
think we ought to be
Okay.
glad that we got somebody that's going after this aggressively and getting this taken care of. Thank you. I know Mr.
Thanks.
Korea voted
Yeah, favorable, and I heard a second from Jerry. So I have a motion by Al, second by Jerry for a favorable recommendation on Article 20 for $10,000 for the town treasurer. All those in favor? Unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, one more thing on a later note. I
Yep.
mentioned this to you. On Monday night, the selectmen voted to refund one of the geriatric bonds. We reduced the loan to a 28-year loan from a 30-year, cut the interest rates down to about 3, and gonna save the town over the 28 years, 1.8 million.
Yep.
But again, that goes right to geriatric. That goes to countryside, correct?
Countryside reimburse.
Well, what I'm saying is the
So you-
1.8, the town isn't getting anything more out of this.
The geriatric authority.
It's a good thing.
It's a very good thing, and it was, the
It's
interest was
geriatric
between
that
4 and
gets it.
5, to
But
4.28.
it's an important distinction.
Yes.
No, it's very good work by your office as usual.
Thank you for taking me early.
I'm not singing to you, just so you
Happy
know.
birthday.
We could
I
sing
was-
to you, but you might be upset.
Thank you, Mr. Pillar.
We underwrite that, right? Is that it? The town guarantees though that?
Correct.
Technically, we started doing it because as a town, we had a better bond rate. But I just don't want anybody thinking we're getting 1.8 million off of our capital, because that's a straight wash that, I mean, at the end of the day, let's face it, it's not the town's. Countryside doesn't belong to us, they're independent. But it's our mothers, our grandmothers,
But
it does.
Their borrowing capacity is based on the town's.
Right,
financial-
that's what I'm
that's
saying,
what-
Jerry.
that's what
At the end of the day,
Same thing.
if something happened, we'd have to take care of them. You're not gonna throw out Bobby's mother or my mother or your
Chairman?
mother. They throw you
Mr.
out.
Chairman, he does an outstanding job with this bonding issue. He understands it, and he really does a great job, and I don't,
Something like that can save the town significant amount of money. This happens to be that it's saving the geriatric, but,
But it's still the town.
yep, there's
every
no
time, every
question.
time I've had a conversation, he's always on top of
Yep.
what's going on in the market.
Okay. Where we going next, Mr. Chairman?
All right, thank you very much. I don't see Amy here, but I know she told me she was coming, so.
Article 24?
Jen, I know we're ahead of schedule. Do you mind hopping up, or do you want to wait for? It's pretty simple, so, thanks.
I forgot 24.
Jen, we have Article 24, the Assessor's Office.
I read that today.
It's gonna be quicker for you to tell us what it's about than for me to find it, Jen, so.
So Article 12 of the general bylaws talks about who assigns a street number in the town. It's changing one thing, it's saying instead of having it be the building commissioner, it would say the assessor administrator. That's the only change to that article.
Who assigns what?
Assigns the number.
Street number.
Street numbering,
Isn't that traditionally the building commissioner's duty?
it's been here in this town. I wouldn't say everywhere, no.
Okay. So, well, why are we changing it now?
The Board of Assessors felt that that was an appropriate move. They felt that it could be done more effectively, since we're assigning parcel numbers as well as the fact that we have more information available to us to properly number streets. In other words, we can look up properties and see what house is on this side and what house is on this side, and if this is a two-family and they're using two numbers, we know that. So we're not gonna assign this number that's already been assigned and is being used over here. So we've run into some troubles, and we think that this would be a more effective way to number the properties and also notify the proper departments and 911.
The other thing,
Absolutely, Jerry, go ahead.
you're gonna coordinate the tax billing also along that same lines, right?
We do.
So that kind of gives you the opportunity to bring the whole thing, encompass it all in one file, one data point in the
Exactly.
computer. I'm in favor of it, if anybody.
Mr.
It's a
Chairman,
financial article.
so we're replacing the current wording with this wording. What's changed specifically between
The
this?
person,
Just who does
That's
the
it.
number.
just the person.
So nothing about the size of the number on the house, and that was already in there?
No, nothing.
Okay. But it's not a financial article, right? So make a motion to refer to sponsor.
Thank you, Mrs. Gavia.
Can I just ask one side question? Is there any objection, I mean, today, the building inspector's doing it.
No, I'm
No.
doing
Are
it.
there any?
She's doing it for, she's doing it for the building.
No, but I'm just saying, we will have one. But from that office, is there any objection on, that you know of?
If I may, no, there's no objection. We have sat down with Jen, building
Cool.
commissioner, police, fire. We have worked out, and Jen has done a nice job putting it together. So they're all in agreement, all will still partake and be involved.
That's,
So,
I just wanna know if there was something
no,
that,
we're fine.
No.
cool,
Perfect. I have a motion by Mrs. Schiavi to refer to sponsor.
second.
I get a second by Mike. All those in favor of refer to sponsor on Article 24? Unanimous. Thank you. I'm sorry to pull you in for something like that.
No worries.
Appreciate it.
Yep, thank you
Have a
so
great
much.
night.
You too now.
All right, I still don't see Amy. Excuse me for one, can you do,
It's on the
Zach,
drive,
are
too.
you familiar with the town clerk's article for the $1,000? Yeah. Would you mind doing it for Amy? Thank you.
This article's real simple, and it's
Article-
Oh, I apologize, I did pull Zach up and didn't tell everybody. Article 16 is an article by the town clerk.
apparently Amy's either not here or not present
Maybe it
down
was
here,
Miss
so.
Tanisha. I
this
thought
is-
she told me she was gonna be here.
This is real easy, so this is an article that should look kind of familiar to you, with the exception of the position. So last town meeting, we had treasurer and collector. This is basically an incentive to become certified. When you become certified per this state general law, they're authorized to be paid an additional up to $1,000 in compensation. It's simply designed to encourage employees in these roles to continue education and strive to become certified. Simple as that. And we had again, the last article with the treasurer and collector, so this was available. Amy's, I believe, certified or in progress to be certified, so she'd like to put this out.
Certified as?
A town clerk.
We did this exact thing on the, was it the last town
Treasurer.
meeting? Or was it the town meeting before? But either way, we just did this for Chris's position,
Yep.
word for word.
And
this-
Terry.
And Terry, yeah.
Yep, correct.
Word for word, this exact thing
Exactly.
on the
So
previous town
the
meetings.
question I have then is, are there other positions that are gonna be coming in the future for certification, for the certification?
Not to my knowledge, it's
Incentive.
certainly not town accountant, so sorry over there, and definitely no finance director, so.
a good thing, though.
What about, is there assessors?
I don't think so, no, I don't think so. I mean, it could be possible, yeah, but I
Sure.
don't think so, yeah.
I can.
I believe it's a good thing, because,
Oh, certainly, yeah.
No, but the question was, if there's anything else, we should get it
Group
up.
'em.
Yeah, let's
yeah.
bring them forward
Yeah,
if
yeah.
there's more.
All right, I'll see if
I don't
can-
think so, to answer your question, Mike.
I'll sit down with Zach and Rick and see if we can kind of look at the different positions and see if there's anything, and I'll bring it up at the next meeting.
We have a question over here, sir.
Mr. Nicholson.
Just confirming, Zach, this is a separate stipend each year, not part of, it won't get involved in percentage salary increases?
Will not, no.
Will not?
Will not, no, it'll be 1,000 flat, up to 1,000.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Motion to approve?
What's the necessity to have everyone certified as a town clerk?
Suppose there is no necessity, but it ensures that they've gone through the proper training and displayed that they can handle anything that comes up. But I don't believe there's a requirement, correct? Right. Yeah. so,
It's an elected
Are
position.
those union jobs in there?
they are union positions in there that would not be eligible for this, but there is, that's one of two remaining full-time elected positions.
There are folks that are union in there,
Yes.
so they don't come, they're not gonna get certified, so it's, my problem is either they're all going to be, or why aren't they?
Because this is for the town clerk, so they could get the certification, but this is specifically for the town clerk's position.
Well, we have one town clerk.
Right.
Yes.
That's right. It's really only
This isn't for
affecting
the
one person.
clerks, this is the
Oh,
town.
okay, I thought they were all gonna,
No,
oh,
no,
no.
no, no.
No, it says it in
Just
the
Amy.
article, it's just about the town.
It's in the article,
Yeah.
specifically.
Everybody, the terminology tells you everyone should get certified. That's what was said.
Oh, okay.
So don't tell me that I didn't hear that. Everyone should get certified, but if we have one town clerk, that's enough, okay? Thank you.
You confused the issue.
Move favorable.
Favorable recommendation by Phil, second by Jack. All those in favor for a favorable recommendation on Article 16? Thanks, Jack.
You do know how to read.
Hey, Jack's all over it tonight. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thanks.
Clouded the issue there.
I know.
We got the senior people all upset.
I didn't mean
All
to
right,
confuse it.
Are we going to 15?
yeah. Sorry, folks, as the last meeting, we are ahead of schedule again.
You got Rick here for iPads.
Yeah.
Can we just refer that to sponsor 15?
Let's see what other ones you got, 6-2.
Did you look at the slide?
15. Selectmen, 15.
Lino's here.
Yeah, yeah, but Chairman Kincaid would like to be here for those.
Okay.
Reno.
Reno. I heard Dino was back.
Jerry, the Personnel Board, I know that I had notified them with several emails, and are you,
I just came along to support them on one of them.
I was gonna say, do you mind doing one of them? I figured you would have at least knowledge on some of them, so.
Spend all that
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, didn't you have 4 of them left over from the last meeting under selectmen?
I do have some more for the Selectmen as well, but Chairman Kincaid, I know is coming, I know he was running a little late, so. I know we had them scheduled at 8, so, but we're definitely gonna get to those, yeah.
Yeah, why don't we just do Article 5? That's the one I was gonna support them on, because it's, the wording that will be in the motion is slightly different than the wording in the article. This will, what will be the wording in the motion, then I'll explain it.
Thank you, Counselor.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor.
Sir?
Thank you, Jerry. Yeah, this is Personnel Board's effort to expand the people who might be available to serve to some town officials, which is defined in here a little bit, and I'll get to that. But there, as many boards, it's hard to get people to volunteer that want to serve. And so they saw a need to do that, and they wanted to open it up to even to other town officials in certain instances. And they talked about a number of changes. Some of them would have opened it up to town employees generally, and they didn't. So that's not appropriate. But the way they've defined it now, or the way we've defined it now in this article, still it remains as it is. No person serving as a town employee, town official, or member of any board, commission or board, now it says serving in an elective appointed capacity and having jurisdiction and responsibility for one or more full-time employees of the town. So those boards and commissions, or members of boards and commissions where they don't have responsibility, where those boards don't have responsibility for full-time employees, would be eligible. As an example, the Council on Aging. Right now, they technically wouldn't be eligible because they're town officials, but since they have no, so that group would come in to be under it. Zoning Board of Appeals is another example. Examples of ones that wouldn't would be like school committee members. Wouldn't be able to because they obviously supervise 800 employees. So at least that pool of commission and board members who don't supervise more than one full-time employee would be eligible to be on the Personnel Board. They felt, and I agree with them on this, that that doesn't create the kind of conflict that was originally tried to be avoided when the whole thing was passed in 1959, which is to keep it as an independent board, not connected into town employees and groups of town employees that might have ineffectively undue influence. So by doing this, they've opened the pool of people who might be eligible and interested somewhat. And this is really, I think they agreed as far as they should go on that, but that's what they like to do.
Like to open up for questions, discussion?
So the board right now, how are they appointed?
They're appointed, then they'll still be appointed. That's
Who
not
are they
gonna
appointed
change.
by?
Selectmen.
The selectmen. Are immediate family members of town employees eligible for the board now?
Yes, yeah, but the town employees, town officials, which includes all board members, including uncompensated, almost volunteer boards, but if they're officials, they're not eligible. This will at least open up to some of them.
I have a motion by Jack for a favorable recommendation, second by Mr. Nicholson.
Is this?
Any other discussion?
Should this be?
That's
Yes
what
or
I'm-
no?
I'm thinking that, but that's just my opinion.
Why are we,
I'm waiting for a motion.
I was gonna say, why are we doing this?
Make a motion to refer the sponsor, since it was, proposed by the Personnel Board. All we would do is not oppose it in this case. And by not opposing it, that would give them free run.
Refer to sponsor, that's something
Refer to
we
sponsor.
commonly do.
That's what I was thinking, I just didn't hear it, I had
Second
waited.
withdrawal.
So I have a withdrawal of that motion. So do I have a motion for refer to sponsor?
So moved.
By Jerry. Do I have a second for refer to sponsor? By Andy. All those in favor for refer to sponsor on Article 5? Unanimous.
What about the other articles?
Thanks, Jerry.
The other Personnel Board articles, I'm not sure I
Yep.
should. I think they should speak to that. I presume they'll be here.
I invited them, many emails.
I think it's at
It was
7:35 for them,
Yeah,
so.
no, that's why, I mean, they may just be
I
late. Yep,
expect
there's
they'll
no
be here,
question.
so,
Yep.
those are more substantive, so
Yep.
they should explain that.
Absolutely, yep. So,
Thank you, Jerry. You're welcome.
Thank you.
thank you very much. Thank you for that, Mr. Hyatt. I was kind of pausing, waiting for the motion, and
I know how important it is to
we
try
have
to
had
try
a
to keep
history
it,
of any
try to
time,
keep it
if
moving.
it doesn't have a financial impact, we do like to refer back to the sponsor on their article. All right, so what do we have? We have 2 more Personnel Board articles. We have the town meeting study. I know Jose's flying in, he's gonna be late. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to wait till 8:15 or whatever, so I may call you in, Reno, to do it. Yep. So, why don't we get to some of the selectmen articles? Mr. Kincaid is gonna be here in about 10 minutes. All right, great, excellent. We may be starting to peck away at maybe some of the other ones, Mike, if that'd be okay. We certainly will wait till the big things until,
Can I see Selectman Buckley out there?
Yeah, but Willie's the chair.
yeah,
There's Buckley.
yep.
Pick the one.
Rick, I was just saying to Selectman Walsh, I know Chairman Kincaid's about 10 minutes out, and he wanted to be here, so can we do maybe a couple of the other things before we get to like the big things like the building? You have 3 or 4 things on here. I mean, do you mind?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Buckley as well, yep. I know he definitely wanted to be here for the Central Street buildings and in the study, so, let's see what else I have on here for 6, 9. Is there anything small on there?
What number? What number?
Yep. Oh, yes. Thank you very much for reminding me. Article, thank you very much, Mr. Lalani.
I think it's 19, maybe?
19 is
Yep,
iPads.
Article 19, you guys have decided to pass over that article?
I'll look at it, spend a little more time on it.
All right, that sounds good. Thank you very much. 1912.
That's one you shouldn't touch.
Yep. Stay away from 12. Article 9, why don't we do that one? I don't think Chairman Kincaid will mind if we
Have the numbers.
start with that one, so.
You have the list, Rick?
Zach, do you want to come up for Article 9?
Oh, Zach.
Yeah, water company, budget? He said, I don't think Chairman Kincaid will mind if we do this one.
I know you had 50, I thought we kicked this one along.
I don't know them by number. So they're by issue. Break up the
All
spot.
right, ladies and gentlemen, we have Article 9 for the Board of Selectmen, the establishment of the water company, water department, excuse me, budget. So, Chairman Buckley, Chairman Walsh, and
Straightforward.
Zach. What do you
So,
got?
we obviously moved forward with September 26th and have authorization to purchase the water company. There's ongoing negotiations with the PNS and all that good stuff. However, we still anticipate that January 1st is the go-forward date. So what I put together here was a 6-month budget from January 1st to June 30th. We have some assumptions here, one of which is
Zach?
is short-term interest. So we know either way when
You
we
put
do
that on the
this.
drive, Zach?
I didn't. I have copies if you want.
Is it on the
but-
drive?
Do you mind handing
Yeah.
out copies?
We need to see if we need.
Paul passed them out, right?
No,
No, I only gave that to you. I was gonna verbally talk to them, but I can leave them alone. I didn't make enough copies.
See if we can find it.
I can do it.
Like
I already,
this.
I already have mine. I
Okay.
apologize.
Yeah, let's see, copy for myself.
just go one every 2 or 3 people. There really isn't,
What's it listed under on the drive?
it's not on the drive.
It's not on it.
The sewer department, and you need a typo in there, Zach.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to hand it out.
What does it say, sewer?
Yep,
Oh, we know where you got
yeah,
that.
it's the cleaner of the two waters.
So despite the bottom saying total sewer, it's definitely water. I forgot to update it.
Okay, Zach.
Sorry, Zach.
Water
So-
look like sewer.
Hopefully
This
not.
is in the
That's
normal
what I thought.
format that you're used to seeing, which is in the Article 4 presentation. It's going to supplement Article 4, now be included. And the very last language, if everyone recalls, following the traditional Article 4, shows the grand total of what the budget will be, and specifically calls out that the portion of the enterprise fund, in the case we're used to, sewer, that total budget will be raised through user fees. So following this article, that exact language will be here too, saying of the total $3,983,254 of water company, water department budget will be specifically raised outside of raise and appropriate. Will be specifically raised through user fees outside of the levy. So that will fall into line with that and supplement the budget. Now, also, as you can see, per the way this town does budgets, we have it separated through personal services, general expenses, maturing debt, short and long-term interest. So if you look at the debt portion, we do know that when we bond this, even if we're perfectly right on target with 12/31, that either way, any principal payments will be during FY19. That's why you see no principal on the maturing debt, and you see a short-term, long-term of 1.3 million. And we put $10,000 in there for potential very short-term interest, and 1.3 would cover any first payment scenario that we will have. General expenses is inclusive of all repair and maintenance items, including a project that we know we'll have to tackle right away. And the personal services is hand in hand with the last article that this board had gone favorable on, with the personnel board putting forward the compensation packet that will also supplement Article 2. So that's built out, including overtime assumptions and whatnot. So this absolutely should be a sufficient budget. And if anything, we went a little aggressive on it in hopes that water commissioners, looking at Phil, will not spend it all, therefore creating some retained earnings right off the bat. On the other flip side of this, we obviously had to look at revenue, and we applied all the assumptions we've been calculating all along, and inclusive of the $750,000 appropriated at the September 26th special town meeting, which will subsidize this budget for the one and only time, and user fees and all sorts of miscellaneous income as well, should be sufficient to cover the budget here.
I guess the water guy should go first.
Thank you. I have a vested interest.
Phil.
Zach, so you're projecting that the revenue is gonna equal the expenses, and it's gonna be a break-even budget?
Correct. We're projecting that per the way the tax recap must be put together, that we did appropriate the $750,000, so the way it must work is that the revenue has to match your total budget less $750,000. So it's actually my personal hope that it actually matches the budget and again, creates retained earnings.
Okay, good. How did you arrive at the budget, Zach? Did you get numbers from the water company? How did you?
Yep, so obviously
I'm
been
sure you
dealing
had
with
to,
this for
yeah.
a long time, and we use a combination of trend analysis as well as, again, with the personal services section, we anticipate town meeting's gonna vote what this board is going favorable on and what the selectmen have been offering. So that one was rather easy, like we always do with building up personal service budgets,
Yeah.
using proper factors,
Yeah.
counting the days, applying overtime factors, special type pays, that's all inclusive there. And then the general expenses, as we were kind of messaging throughout this process, was that they're highly predictable with the exception of capital expenditures. And in the last month, or especially since the passing of the article to acquire, we've kind of ramped up and done a lot of continued capital planning in the very short term. So we know that certain projects can wait for the retained earnings we're hoping to create, and there's other projects that do need to happen immediately. RFPs are ready to go out and all that good stuff. So
Yeah.
that encompasses this as well.
Okay, in terms of staffing, your budget actually projects using the existing staff?
It does. Yep. And the assumptions of going out right now to hire a general
plan-
manager,
yeah.
as well as to make sure we can pay you.
I get paid? I didn't know that.
The amount hasn't been set yet,
Hasn't
so
been set.
relax, all right?
I don't know if you'd be laughing after that.
Anything's
It's gonna be more than
positive.
FinCom, I'll tell you
Anything's
that.
positive. But, okay, Zach, and the only thing, in terms of the revenue side, did you look at the same months last year? So you looked at January of
Yeah, I worked with the Lincoln Group
2017,
on this,
yeah.
and I specifically said I
That
want to
revenue
build
should
this
track pretty
very,
good.
very conservatively, and I want to be surprised at the end. So
Yes, we're gonna have
hopefully-
retained earnings. There you
yes,
go.
Yes.
And that's important to point out. I mean, speaking to Zach at the financial team meeting, he did what we do a lot of the times. He was very conservative with the revenue, and he was aggressive with the expenses. So in essence, if it all works out, then we should have retained earnings.
Yeah, and you've seen this detail? Chris?
Yep,
okay.
yep. We had it at a financial team meeting,
Okay.
and it's all broken out.
I'll get it to you as well.
All right,
Yep.
thank you. Yeah.
So it definitely was, like I said, he was aggressive and conservative on either side to benefit the town, so we really wouldn't get stuck with it, and that $750,000 should be more than enough to cover us through until the bills start going out from the town of Milford, and we start collecting some revenue from the users.
Now, this is for fiscal year 18 through June 30?
Yeah.
So
January to June, yeah.
January, so wouldn't this be half of the 4 million? Is 4 million the annualized number, or is that?
That's half.
Yeah, that's half.
So it's
Yeah.
8
Everything
million.
there is pretty much, gonna be doubled.
Yep. Yes, that's true.
Yes.
Including the debt service, this is only an interest payment.
Yep, and we'll be dealing with the full budget when we do budgeting for next year. We'll be looking at their department as a full year. And after a great recommendation for Mr. DeVita, our subcommittee that looks over sewer, you guys will be doing the same thing with water.
Right, yeah, yeah, it follows the same.
No, it was- no,
format
it-
and categorization and everything else.
Yeah,
so
it makes perfect sense. So that
sense.
subcommittee that overlooks sewer would now overlook the water company and meet with them, to go over this budget, which obviously Zach did a great job laying this out. I know the whole team did it, but, next year, obviously, we'll have a full year that we're gonna be looking at, and we'll also have, 5 months of real actual business under our belt to see how things are really going, not just,
Exactly, yep.
what their records show. So
Exactly.
that's gonna be a huge change for us, so.
Thank you, Zach.
Yep, Mike.
You said capital expenses were gonna be included in the general expenses here?
Yes.
Is that what we do for sewer?
It
'Cause
has
I-
not been, but I feel it's too risky to do this in this half year, because we're basing everything off of another company. We may have different ideology, all that, so I really don't wanna end up in a situation where that actually hindered us. So I do anticipate and would recommend that future years, when we have a full year, we call
We
it
would
out
separate the
as it
top.
has been traditionally done, yes.
Good question, Mike.
Any other?
As far as medical, for most of the other departments, we do not budget medical or benefits in the department.
Correct.
Is that true here?
It's not true here.
Okay.
It is budgeted in here. It's built into the personal services number. Another important.
Just like the sewer, same thing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The sewer we break out because you're basing the rates on true expenses.
Correct.
Right.
This is based on true expenses.
And pension.
We're not burying,
It's true
That's
accounting.
correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Also,
Right.
along those lines, glad you mentioned that. I wanted to mention that at the same time, the pension annual required contribution is included in both the sewer and will be included in here as well. And I say will because it is not in this number, because we will not be assessed until the actuaries actually have a chance to assess us. So this might not happen till.
Zach, one time hit, like Phil's $1 million salary, I can understand.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure that it's all clean going forward.
Yep.
That's unfavorable on the $1 million, just.
Come on, Mr. Chairman, huh?
That's unanimous. That's unanimous.
You thought I meant American dollars?
Mr. Chairman, you need a motion?
I had one more question, if I
Mr.
may.
Soers, yeah.
Is the pilot, the payment in lieu of taxes built into this budget as well?
General expense, yes it is.
All right.
Yep.
Motion we approve as presented by the Mr. Zach?
I have a motion by Jerry for a favorable recommendation on Article 9,
Aye.
Water Company budget. Second by Andy. All those in oh, any other discussion?
Just one last question.
Absolutely, Mr. Gabby.
So you mentioned the 750, right? So there's no plan to begin paying that back to the town in the fiscal year?
There
coming
is a
up ahead?
plan, but it does need to be negotiated between the selectmen and the water commission is what, there is a plan I'm gonna propose.
Okay, very good. That's.
Right, great.
It's not here.
No, but it is in the future.
It's contingent on the.
Absolutely. That was all done
Revenue
with
stream,
that,
right?
that money would be repaid. Unfortunately, we
that.
don't have water commissioners. We
Yeah.
have them in name, but not in position right now.
Yeah.
And they can't negotiate the deal until they're in there.
I have a really good
So,
proposal.
yeah,
but-
Zach has actually had a really good idea, but obviously that needs to be approved by the water.
Just want to make sure we keep sight of that.
Absolutely.
You're
Nope.
gonna need the revenue stream.
That'll be Phil's first presentation.
Yeah.
There you go.
That'd be
Yeah.
great.
You're sitting on the other side of the table. So I have a motion and a second for a favorable recommendation on Article 9. Any other discussion? With that being said, all those in favor of a favorable recommendation? Unanimous. Thank you very much, Zach.
Yeah.
All right, Chairman Kincaid, do you have a preference on order? Do you want the consultant first? Would you like the buildings to, your prerogative, whatever you want.
Well, why don't we do the buildings, because the Downtown Revitalization Committee's here, Ronnie Pagnini and his committee.
Sounds great.
You guys come on up, or
What article is this, the number?
Article 6.
yeah, then if we set that up, he can introduce his committee and.
Yeah, it wasn't presented.
It's inconsistent with.
Joyce and gentlemen, I think everyone knows Ronnie Pagnini Jr., who's the chairman of the Downtown Revitalization Committee. He has a short presentation. He's also going to introduce his committee members. They've been doing a ton of work, and hopefully you saw the newspaper today. There was a good story about, going to town meeting about these buildings. So
Just before they have discussion.
Well, that's not this one, not this one's the next one. This is the buildings. The other one's the consultant.
This is the purchase of 3 buildings on
Two different articles.
on Central Street, yes.
You gonna come up?
You don't even have to stand or anything, huh?
I just, can you guys give me just 1 second, please?
6.
Jerry, can you come up here for a second,
Jerry,
please?
can we ask you a question?
You need to go in executive session, since it's your thing?
6.
A question, is there an issue, since if we go through it, it's creating parking that affects all downtown businesses, that he is downtown business, should he hand over the chairmanship for the? I don't see a problem. Okay, as long as you're okay with it. I just don't want it coming back biting us.
Thank you, Jerry.
And if it does, Jerry will have to defend it.
I just want to make sure that we're clean.
That's a great question.
Can't have a sign with your
Ronnie, you
name.
wanna come up and introduce your committee? You guys have been doing a ton of work.
Can you
and-
do me a favor, Zach? I think I didn't hit the power button. I apologize.
You want me to call Andy at home?
Just people.
So we put a quarter in the meeting.
Yeah, Mr. Magnet, if you can do me a favor and introduce yourself to the committee, and your committee as well, for me as well.
Speaking of Andy, the website's great, by the way.
Well, my name is Ron
The new
Pagnini.
website is great.
Ron
Pretty
Pagnini
impressive, Ron. They
Jr.
did a nice job.
How you doing? Yeah, you too, guys.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. We don't have to wait for that. Those are just your
Okay, yeah,
pictures.
We formed a very proactive downtown revitalization committee about 6 months ago. We have Tony Pinto, Pinto Real Estate, Paul Milnati, Milford, business owner, Pete Moynihan. We also have Laura Mann, who couldn't make it here tonight, and Josh Leoch, who is sick in bed at home right now. He was going to make a presentation. Yeah, he has a touch of the flu. If you can see, this is the back side of the buildings, looking from
music and arts building, looking at the back. And it's been like that for quite a few years. There's 3 buildings, the 4-story Mike Stone's building, Sean Hawkins owns the building in the middle. And then there's, behind a tree is Rich Goldberg's building.
Selectman Buckley, could I trouble you? Can you pick up that laptop by your feet? No, the laptop.
Okay.
And just help Mr. Pagnini out by just hitting to the left and right arrows.
So, Ron, you may have to actually go to it because it's not as clear to everyone. You've been looking at this for a while.
Just hit the left
Yeah.
arrow and the right arrow.
So,
Perfect.
yeah, if you can see that, unfortunately, he
Go here.
he stopped his construction years ago and never put a roof on. So over the years, it eventually caved in. And, you know, I own a few properties downtown, and, you know, my tenants, you know, they talk about that, the way it looks. It just brings down the image of the whole downtown Milford. Actually, all 3 of the properties, they're all in need of major repair. The way I look at it, if somebody was crazy enough to buy one of these buildings and put money into it, you could never get the income to support that. And it is what it is. It's a downtown reality. I noticed what got me on this was the center building came up for sale. And then I got approached by Richie Goldberg about his building. And I said, this might be a great opportunity to acquire these buildings at the right price, at the best price we ever could get them, if we can get them all at the same time. Complete knockdowns, I'd have to say all of them. Mike Stone is still using part of the building for storage of furniture. But I sat down and talked to each one of them before I even approached the selectmen, just to make sure they were comfortable with this. And I don't think there's anything they can really do with these buildings, and I think they know that. So if we don't do anything, these buildings will be here for 20 more years. Sure, we can have that center one knocked down, but we're gonna have just an eyesore of a property going forward. Bless you. I just feel it's I want to say like a once in a lifetime to get these properties at this kind of price. And it's close, they're just about what they were assessed for. Now, being a landlord, these guys have been paying their taxes. And, you know, I feel for their side of it too, but at the same time, there was no reinvestment from them over the years. And I can see why also. That's the other part of it. So it's just, it is what it is, and it could be like this for another 10 or 15 years. I've talked to many people downtown. The number one issue we have downtown is parking. I've been down there for 41 years, since I've been 16, working there. Had many employees, lots of customers. It's always been the same thing. We put meters in to get a good turnaround on Main Street, but what we ended up doing was giving our customers the change to go put in the meter. We'd have to pay their ticket once they got it. It was always a tough thing, parking. So my thing for the first part of turning around downtown Milford is, well, in my plan, it was beautifying the 25 or 30 buildings that have gone by the wayside, and then creating parking wherever we can. Like, this is the beginning of it. I feel down the road there's gonna be more properties that we somehow need to do something of different areas where we need to create more parking. Then we'll go out and I'll get different businesses to come in to get a little better mix over time. Right now, our properties are pretty much rented out, but it's a struggle for the landlords at the same time. They're rented out, but we can only get so much rent because there's no parking and the way the overall town looks. And I can tell you just what got me going on this whole thing was about 6 months ago, I got approached by two real estate brokers within probably about a 2-week period. And they both said the same thing to me, and I go to work every day, I got a little office in the Grant Building, and I guess I lose sight of it over the years, you don't notice, but they both told me the same thing. They had a customer coming in for the first time into the downtown to buy a house, a beginning house in Milford. They were driving in downtown to go look at the house, but they wanted to go through downtown. They called the broker and says, this is not a town for us. We don't like the way the downtown looks. That was one person, 2 people in 2 weeks, and it was told to me. And I said, wait a minute, I can't believe this. So what I did was I walked from Sacred Heart Church to the police station, and I looked at each building, and I can see what they saw. And you can see signs over signs, awnings that are ready to fall down, hodgepodge writing in the windows, paint that's peeling, just facade things. It's not gonna take a lot to make the overall appearance of downtown look a lot better. Now, why can't these landlords put the money back in the property? And it's really comes down to the tax burden that's placed on them. Takes every last penny from them, where it's not easy to put money back into the property. And that's a downtown reality. You know, myself, I've got 6 buildings downtown, and I've made it work, and I've got my buildings looking good. But I don't think these other buildings will ever get taken care of until somebody eventually buys it for their own use and puts money into it, and that could be 50 years down the road before these 25 or 35 buildings get taken care of.
Ronnie, can I interrupt?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to give a little history. Ronnie touched on it, but he reached out to the Board of Selectmen, many months ago now, with this idea of forming a committee, a small group, a group that's going to get out there, hit the ground running, and they have. Ronnie has spoken a lot about the different things that they plan to do. But when he took the initiative and the committee took the initiative to do this, Ronnie said a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. There's not a lot of, Alberta, there's not a lot of, I guess examples when, a lot of us anyway, where we see a public entity coming in to, buy land or gobble it up. But I think when we look at towns like Hudson, when we look at towns like Marlborough, and these committee members certainly know better than I do, the driving force is parking first. If you don't have a place to park, how do you get that brew pub downtown? How do you get an anchor restaurant? We can ask and beg and borrow, but until you have a place to park, people aren't going to come to us. And Ronnie also touched on that, there's not a lot of vacant buildings downtown. But ideally, would we rather have some other businesses rather than maybe some things that are there now? But until there's parking, landlords aren't going to be able to get the premium rents, be able to put money back in. So I really think this is an opportunity, whether or not it's 3 months down the road or 3 years down the road. In the meantime, at the very least, we can have open space. It's still better than what we're looking at and what those business, even look at Central Street, how it's come alive again. But most of it, upper, lower, parts of middle, compared to what it was. So I just think that this is the opportunity and this is the chance. And again, these are Milford families, Milford residents that have volunteered to come and approach these folks. The Board of Selectmen certainly haven't. This committee has. And again, even if you paid attention to social media today, based on the Milford Daily News article that was published today, a lot of people are responding positively to the fact that this is an opportunity that the town
I saw that. I
has.
can't believe all the people that have been saying positive things about getting more parking, having these buildings come down, and trying to spruce up the overall look of the downtown
And
Milford.
this is something that's been talked about from past boards of selectmen, this board. Now we finally have an opportunity to act on it, and it's been a long time coming. So I certainly hope for your support. I certainly we all would love to have it. I hope we can gain it. And I don't know if...
Before I open it, I just wanted, because I don't know that a number has even been said here since they came in. The number is 750,000 is what's been looking for in this article, and that's for the purchase of all 3 properties And the demolition of all three buildings,
which is just as important.
which that is the important part. There's no
We haven't even
good.
gotten into the safety aspect of it or approach
Well,
the
that's
fire
just one thing I
chief
did
or
want to ask you, is that the
things
fire
like that.
chief, I think, has made comments about the fact that, you know, it's one homeless person away from burning down Central Street. I mean, any of those buildings, what's in there, I mean, that could be a real situation.
Mr. Chairman, does it include paving after you tear the building down?
No, it does not.
Does not.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, let me just, Selectman Buckley, and then we'll go to Mike.
You know, for me, I think.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
I just want to say a few things about what we're looking at here. We're looking at 3 contiguous properties that are in the state that you see. But what I hope is not happening by any of us is that we begin to normalize and stop looking at these types of things as being a problem. Boarded up problems, collapsing roofs are all a problem in this community. And it didn't get that way in 5 years or 10 years. And us solving through acquisition, through a whole bunch of different tools that we'd like to look at, this is just the beginning. Frankly, I think there'll be more in front of you. I think there'll be other things that pop up. But what I'm hoping is that we don't get in a mode where we just drive through Main Street, we're trying to get home in a rush, we're not looking at it with the perspective we need to. Hopefully, the board members here have had an opportunity to drive down Central Street, walk around these buildings. If you haven't, I would recommend it. But there's no way we should be normalizing and looking at these the way we look at the properties that people are investing in. They're boarded up, there's graffiti, the roofs are collapsing, again, they're contiguous. If the worst thing that the town does is buy these, knock them down, and create open space, we'll have gained a huge advantage for the people of Central Street. And we've talked about, I think, together, individually, as groups, as boards, talked about quality of life. I didn't see a better opportunity right off the start and out of the gate to address that quality of life issue and act on it, rather than continue to talk about it. So I'd hope that we don't normalize it, and I hope that they look at these contiguous properties as an opportunity and a place to begin.
Before I open it up, guys, I just want to also hear from Selectman Walsh as well.
I think one of the key factors that we need to look at is not, in downtown parking is important, but and to Selectman Buckley's point, if anybody hasn't been down there and looked at these buildings, they're a major safety issue. Major safety issue, and I know that the Board of Selectmen feels strongly that, we sit here and do nothing, shame on us. And here's an opportunity for the town to take these properties and knock these properties down. Yes, create open space, but also create a safe environment for the citizens of this town. But also, more importantly as well, is to promote and show businesses that do want to come downtown that we're taking a proactive approach to support them and what they need through the Board of Selectmen, through the Finance Committee's support. But to let properties like this go the way they have for many, many years is unacceptable in my opinion, and now is the time we need to take a stance. We need to spend some money. We all don't like spending money, but sometimes you gotta spend money to move forward. We need to spend some money, get these buildings down, tell the people in this community that we care about them, we care about their safety, and we're gonna move forward, and we're gonna create a better downtown area through the organization of this new committee, which is under Ron's direction. He's got some great committee members. Let's move forward. Let's do the right thing and send the message to the taxpayers of this community that we do care about this community and we care about your safety.
And Chris, Mr. Chairman, if I can, I just want to remind this board too, because on a smaller scale, but the FinCom actually helped, when I was a member of the school committee many years ago now, you folks helped us do a very similar model, but much smaller, across from Memorial were those dilapidated portables. And what we did with a lot of help and the support from you folks were, we were able to go in, if you remember, tear them down. That was the first priority, get rid of them, whether it was rodents, whether it was a whole bunch of other issues structurally. We removed those, and then through a longer process, about a year or two, through reclamation, and the highway surveyor helped us with when he was reclamating pavement to dump and smooth, and now it's actually a finished parking lot because staff was parking in the neighborhoods. They had nowhere to go between Stacy and Memorial, and now you drive by, you would have never known that that was a site of dilapidated portables for many, many years, most of my life anyway. And now it's a functioning ADA approved, everything parking lot. So I think, again, just going to that, this is a much larger scale. I realize that, but we really have the opportunity to repeat that success, except actually, the long-term goal is to actually have parking for downtown when we're all still working so hard along with you folks to bring businesses to downtown. I really think, and I've learned so much from Ronnie over the last couple of years of being on the board. Not only do I enjoy his company, but you're super bright, and just the vision he brings that I wouldn't even think of. I've been super impressed, and I think that one thing we talk about, we're one business away from revising downtown, and I really think that this is the opportunity to get us that much closer. And we've talked about it for 40 years, and I think we're getting there. I think this is really close.
Hey, guys, I know there's a lot of people, and you've all motioned to me, so we're just gonna go around. I'll do the best I can. I know it was Al, then Mike, so we're gonna start with Al and then go over to Mike, so.
The smirk you got is that,
I know you always make me laugh.
well, no, but once in a lifetime.
Yep.
I'm sorry. This is not once in a lifetime.
Well, it's the first in
This
our
is a
life.
unique opportunity. I'll buy that. Not once in a lifetime. Michael, when you say it's a major, major safety issue, I hope not. Because if it is, why aren't the three of you doing something about it today? If it's a major safety issue,
We're sitting here in front of you.
This is the
well, but it's
step.
gonna be months. If it's a major safety issue, why aren't we dealing with it tomorrow morning? See, I think there's too much emotion in this.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do we have the authority to do anything?
Sure you do.
Of course you do. If it's a major safety issue, if it's a
Don't think that roof falling
guys,
in is a major safety issue?
then why aren't we doing something, Michael?
So is that the question? Is
No,
this not a
here,
safety issue?
no, what I'm saying is there's too much emotion. I hear what he's saying. There's a sense of pride that we want to feel about our downtown. I'm for this. But I think of the pride of looking at downtown. I've gone into little towns that have renovated, and they look nice, and it makes you feel good. And a lot of us, and I know you three, love Milford. So there's part of me that says, if this is part of giving us what we want to really feel proud, I'm all for it. But not because, oh, it's a once in a lifetime. This is a unique.
Three contiguous properties? I think it is, Al. I very rarely
Willie,
disagree with
if we
you, but-
offered them $1 million each next year, they would say no?
And I would not be in favor of
well,
it.
no,
I don't
but-
think any of you guys would be in favor
No,
of
but
it.
it's not once in a lifetime.
Albert, how about
price.
this? Once in a lifetime to get them at the best price we can.
That I'll buy. See, to me, if we get a plan,
That really matters.
and the timing thing bothers me because we didn't know anything about it, and it came about, all of a sudden, we get a note saying, we need $1 million. When? Oh, in 2 weeks. Candidly, that bothers me. We should be planning it. Bill, you've been one that
Oh,
said,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
You're looking at somebody who is sat in front of you, talked about boards. of
don't let
selectmen.
people jump.
Don't let people jump the line. The fact of the matter is, when you have properties you can move on at the price we're talking about, we feel not only is it our responsibility, but obligation to get this in front of you.
And again, Bill,
as
what I'm
fast as we
hoping for,
could.
what I'm leading to, is we need a real plan that says, okay, what are we trying to do? Build a sense of pride in downtown. I mean, we get a lot of extra money from businesses, so bring in more businesses, okay? The downtown is barren, you know, and I've heard you talk about, hey, let's do some upscale condos that would bring people downtown.
Yep.
As part of a whole plan, I feel really good, because it makes me understand where we're going, because to me, what you're talking about is the first installment
Yes.
in a long-term investment in our town.
Because we've only been at step one all this time. That's what confuses me about your, especially out of all these members, Al. I'm actually surprised because you bring emotion to almost everything, and that's why a lot of us
But
appreciate
Willie,
what
I
you
think you
speak
can
about.
sell it on facts. It's not
Absolutely,
once in a lifetime. This is a long-term plan that next year you'll probably come
Al,
back.
what does that matter?
I see Al.
I
see
don't wanna get
Albert's-
hung on vocabulary.
I see Albert's
Doesn't
point
matter.
about,
We're getting hung
this
up
is,
on
this is the
vocabulary.
beginning, and we have to continue, and it's an ongoing thing.
Before I go to Mike, Al,
That's it.
did you, okay.
I was wondering if the $750,000 would include the cost of test borings and analysis before closing, as well as asbestos abatement and all as part of the tear down.
We have our assessments of each of the buildings where a certified assessor or somebody has gone through, taken their best look at it. We've got We've actually got a fair amount of documentation that talks about no visible contaminants. That doesn't mean that there isn't possibly something underground. We're not doing test borings, though. We're not doing test borings to make it a parking lot. If we had great hopes to make this early childhood youth center, that would be a different discussion, but not to make it a parking lot.
Not to say.
Your point is a good one. It is in the evaluations that we've had done on the 3 properties. That's how we arrived at the price.
And the 3 properties I have right around there, I bought with a mortgage where they did some initial testing, and there's no underground contaminants in that whole area. So I feel good about that
Yeah,
myself.
banks have been writing notes for these properties for quite a while, and they're more risk adverse than probably many of us.
You good?
Yes.
Aldo? And then Andy, and then after that I lost track, so.
750,000, as I understand it, we're buying a tear down, a purchase, and what else? Was there anything else? Oh, the demo.
Yeah,
tear
the
down.
demos, yeah.
Now, which part of that 750 is the tear down? Which part of that 750 is the purchase?
It's about 523, that is the acquisition cost of the 3 properties.
The 3 properties. Those are sound numbers that have been presented to the owners.
Jerry?
Yeah. If you look at the article offer, as typically they do, authorize acquisition by purchase or taking by eminent domain. Anytime a city or town goes through this, you have to get an appraisal done by a certified appraisal, as Bill mentioned. We've done that, so the numbers that are in there are the appraiser's numbers. That doesn't mean the landowners agree with it, but we have to do it in the form, the only way to get this done effectively, it's gonna be a taking, it's not gonna be a purchase. We'll do a taking, then if dissatisfied with the numbers, the owners then have 3 years to sue the town for additional, or negotiations could take place with the settlement, as always happens in eminent domain. But in order to effectuate this, we really have to do it ultimately as an eminent domain taking. Unless they all come in and say, we'll give you a deed tomorrow and just give us that money, but that doesn't typically happen. So you get it done by
So they
doing a
haven't
taking,
agreed to
and then
the
you
price.
negotiate, if at all, or a jury will decide, some years down the road. That's the only way a city or town can do this effectively.
So as Selectman Buckley said, so it's 5.25 is what the appraisals came in for the 3 buildings, and then the other 225 was for the demolition and, grading, removal. Thank you.
Okay, there, I think the question was asked by someone over there. There is no money in there to fill the cavities that are going to be there. And did someone actually go through that building and take a 21E on that building so we know what the abatements are?
There's no 21E performed on the property.
Okay, now, are there
What they
furnaces?
they look for all of the signs that, the tile, the asbestos, they look for those types of things in the course of going through up and down the site.
What concerns me is that we buy in for 750. We come out with a 1,750,000. That's the part that worries me.
Right.
And, these buildings have been there for as long as I can remember. I mean, I've spent time in the parking lot, so I don't disagree with one thing you say about the condition of this property. My concern is, I really don't like to buy a pig in a poke. I like to know what it's gonna cost me at the end of the day. Now, I'm gonna ask, Mr. Pagnini mentioned something in his initial presentation. He spoke about tax rate. Now, we know that the homeowner's tax rate is a bit different than the tax rate on these properties. Now, am I to assume that if this were to go away, that we wouldn't be visiting the idea of changing that tax structure a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years? It can always happen. I can do it, you can do it, anybody else can do it.
Not the plan, though, Aldo.
Yeah, I know that's not in the plan. These buildings, are there still heating systems in these buildings?
No, the small building on the first one coming down, this particular building is being used for furniture storage.
Right,
I
it
don't know
has
what
been
kind of
forever.
heat they would need for that. So there might be something there, or the buildings might be insulated enough where they don't need to use much heat at all. The center one is completely, it's a new structure, completely new structure that caved in. And then the other one, there's no, is
Ron, I'm
completely-
only concerned that if you get into the older heating systems, you're looking at asbestos every place.
Oh, yeah. So the
And
two,
that's my
two
concern.
buildings that I've been
Because
through,
it's not cheap to abate any of this.
so two of them, there's no heating systems in two of them.
And the last part of the question I want to ask you is that you've been around, you folks did this in what, 6 months? Something like that?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
give yourself a pat in the back, will you put it together in
But that's
6
the
months?
alternative.
Okay. Is there anything that we, as a board, we kept saying this is our first step, this is our first step. Is there anything, even on paper, about this is our first step, what's the second step, what's the third step? Ultimately, you want to make Main Street, down towards East Main Street, more palatable.
Yes.
There are certain things that exist today that you're going to have a problem moving.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm talking about, because you're there every day.
Yeah. Yes.
And so, I mean, I would really like to see what's at the end of the rainbow, so to speak.
Sure.
I know what's gonna happen if you take the buildings down and if you fill the areas. I think we could, if it's strictly for a parking lot, I'm not on board. I don't wanna spend up to $1 million for a parking lot down there. I mean,
Oh, it's
you're
not.
gonna get about 40 parking spaces.
No, it's
But
not.
if it's part of a big, an overall plan
Is.
for Main Street, so that certainly our grandchildren are gonna see it,
And
I gotta go around now.
Okay.
Ronnie, do you want to say something before I get Andy's next?
Yeah, just wanted to say, we do have that vision and that plan. I did send out, I hopefully you all received.
Saw that.
And you read it, because it's, we're keeping it simple, but there's certain steps that we see, and we've got really a proactive committee. We're not just sitting around. We meet every 3 weeks, and we're all about action and making things happen. And I'd like to see, over time, a different mix, but it will take time to do that. But in the meantime, I want it to look better. I want to create more parking, and then eventually I want to get, somehow, to get people living downtown, the surrounding areas, with some upscale condos or apartments, and I'll find those investors.
Nothing's been said about the condition of that property that isn't true and needs attention. Nothing's been said. My question now is, how are we gonna pay?
In the source of funding which I sent out to everyone, it's under raise and appropriate.
Well, how much? Oh, it's
$750,000.
gonna raise and appropriate.
$750,000.
Is that a 2/3 vote?
No, it's just part of
it's not part of the budget.
No, 2/3 would be to buy it.
This article will require 2/3.
Yeah, that's correct.
So
Yeah,
the 2/3
acquisition
is not
property,
raise and
yeah.
appropriate, we need to do it because we're buying dirt.
Yeah. All right, I got Andy, Mike, then Phil. Andy.
Thank you. I appreciate all the work you guys are doing on this committee. I think it's great, and thank you for the presentation. I'm just trying to bring a little clarity into what we're trying to do here. Is this about, primarily about blight, or is it about economics? I mean, if it's about blight, is the town gonna go around purchasing every property that looks like hell? And are we gonna renovate them and try to get them back into the private sector or take them over? Or is it about economics? And I thought I saw an article where you folks were looking for 20 grand for a downtown consultant, which again, I applaud, but is this a cart before the horse? We haven't figured out what our plan is yet, but we're buying properties randomly, and I understand, my daughter takes music lessons every Saturday morning. I see that property and I echo everything that was said. But I'm trying, other than being an expensive parking lot, there's discussions about upper level living downtown. Is that realistic, given, that goes back to the consultants issue? So I'm just trying to understand how this all fits together.
Yeah.
Well, Andy, that's a great question. I think if there's blight, that's a bonus, so to speak. I think, again, we can plan, we can go ahead. I mean, all of those other conversations, and I respect Aldo asking, about the future and the plans and things like that. But we really looked at this, or I'll speak for myself. I looked at this when I was approached, and it was first presented to me as an individual on the board. I just see it as an opportunity where you have 3 contiguous properties abutting parking lots right in the center of town. And I think, again, based on, all the other towns in our area, with very similar demographics to Milford, you had to have the parking first. And I think having this land and having that opportunity it should be the first step just for that. So to me, it is economics. I think that, again, that should be the first step, and then we can go from there. I mean, we've seen things all over town. I mean, we got an armory for $1, and how much did the youth center end up costing? We invested in it, and it's a beautiful building in the center of town now. But we got a building for $1, and it cost us $6 million. That wasn't about economics, but it was about the center of town, keeping a youth center open. It was about the piece of land we purchased for the senior center. That was where a shoe factory was. I don't have to remind you folks about the contaminants that were down there and how much that ended up costing. We took pieces of land, Joe Batts and other things by eminent domain. So, you know, you look at all these projects that are far bigger. I don't think we can say that $1 million is a ridiculous price for a parking lot if it brings in steps 2, 3, 4, and 5, which they're working on. I don't want, and I hope we're not gonna get so academic that we possibly lose an opportunity because we haven't written a plan down yet. These folks are working on it. We're gonna know about it. You're gonna know about it. We're all on the team. But I think letting this opportunity go, again, we got the armory in the center of town for $1. That was a $6 million dollar. And that wasn't about economics. About doing the right thing, being in the center of town, taking care of the hundreds of kids that go down there. You can obviously speak to that better than I can, but I hope I'm doing okay.
You're doing a great job.
But on Central Street, in the center of town, we have an opportunity here. So, Andy, thank you. It's all about economics. Not having to look at this anymore is an added bonus.
One last thing, just a quick point, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely.
The upscale or whatever it is, the apartment living were to attract walkers and to attract people into the downtown, died for one reason. If you all remember.
No parking.
No parking.
There's no question that to me, there's.
So it's not cart before the
I'm
horse.
gonna wait for everyone else. I'm not gonna
It's
put in my 2
parking
cents.
before
but-
anything else.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm coming, Phil. I got Mike, then you.
So what is the current tax revenue of these 3 buildings that we'll be losing?
I didn't commit it to
It's
memory.
around 15,000,
All
15.
3 buildings combined?
all 3 buildings. Because the assessment is 523,000 roughly is what they were appraised for also. So that's, times that by $31.
Okay. Would we consider any parking fee for this, or is this gonna be a free parking lot?
No,
for-
I think we have to get there.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we can't do anything until we acquire it.
We take them down.
And we'll make sure that they're not cavernous. We'll do our best to make sure that it's just like we left the memorial spot.
I feel the person that gets the contract to demo them will also be asked to grade them out the right way. That's all part of it, I'm sure.
We'll make them an offer they can't refuse.
One last thing. You said this would be eminent domain. They haven't agreed to this price. Have we approached?
No, that's not the step yet.
I think
but-
we're talking about a
but I-
legal approach.
But I've sat down with them, and first of all, the Senate building was appraised, I believe, close to what he was just trying to sell it for. So, I think 2 of them, I think all 3 of them are very realistic. And I don't think they're thinking anything more than that.
But then why wouldn't they just sell them to us?
Yeah, I was
What-
gonna-
What got me nervous is when Jerry said, if we take it by eminent domain, they can come back within 36 months and ask for more money.
Which happens all the time, yeah.
No, it's very possible they will accept the.
It's town meeting
Eminent domain
procedure.
taking is the way to acquire the property cleanly, clear the record, we own it, never be questioned. We've done friendly takings many times. When the party says, that's great, I'll take that amount of money.
Right.
If that happens here, fabulous.
Okay, that's what I'm asking,
No,
Jerry.
It's just a great question.
It's a good chance that will happen.
But that's the cleanest one.
He just setting, Jerry's setting expectations.
That's Plan B, but Plan A is if they accept it, we give them money, they sell the property, we're all happy.
Right.
Or like Jerry said, if it's cleaner legally to take it by eminent domain, but they get the price they want,
Whatever.
I don't think they're gonna
As
mind.
long as everybody's happy.
Yeah,
I'm
just,
sorry, Mike, you done?
Yes, I am.
Sorry, Phil.
yeah, just a comment. You know, there's been a longstanding belief that downtowns have been dead for a lot of years. And, you know, I do think that is changing. If you go to the town of Hudson, who's really done a nice job. in terms
Unbelievable.
of- Unbelievable.
Who
In
was
terms
that,
of
though? Sorry.
Hudson.
Oh, yeah,
Who-
yeah,
of-
absolutely.
Of attracting, you know, retail and restaurants, and, you know, actually, my son said, hey, he said, he's going out one night, I said, where are you going? He said, I'm going to Hudson. I said, what's in Hudson? But
A lot.
A lot. So, and, you know, And there is a migration into urban or semi-urban areas. I mean, a lot of people certainly want to live in the city of Boston. I know a lot of people want to live in the nicer suburbs around 128. That feeling of walking downtown, I think, is something that's slowly coming back. And so I endorse the project. I mean, I realize that you need a plan. So you don't want this to be just, you buy 3 houses and you got a parking lot and it just dies there.
Exactly.
So you really have to integrate the thing and really have an end goal. So I think that's very important. I think Aldo raised some very good questions in terms of, 21Es and asbestos and et cetera. But nonetheless, I am for it. I congratulate your committee. And, I did talk to some folks from Hudson, and they said the mistake they made, the one mistake they made was not enough parking.
Yep, yeah.
So,
And that is a challenge there.
yeah.
And they've got an awful lot of parking behind their main street.
Right, but still, they said it's not enough.
Not enough.
But they really had a whole integrated
And on
plan.
street.
And
Yep.
really, they hired someone to come in and really just,
And that's our next.
right.
We have another presentation
please
after
keep
this
that
one.
thought in mind.
I know.
Segue, there you go.
Segue, yeah.
I got Bobby, then you, Jerry, but I want Mr. Selectman Walsh. Did you want to jump in real quick?
Yeah, just real quick to Andy's point, just to give you an example, and I'm not saying I'm supporting casino, but the new casino that's going in Everett being built by Stephen Wynn is exactly to your point. He's gonna spend $2 billion before he turns the key in the front door. And one of the things that he's working on is the blighted property on the way to the casino, because the economic factor that he knows is that if he doesn't clean the neighborhood up and create ample parking and create greenery, he's not gonna get the people into, and he's not necessarily looking to get them into the slot machines, it's the conference centers, it's the shows, it's the restaurants. And so it is both a blighted situation and it is an economic situation. We know for a fact that we don't take these buildings down, we don't start cleaning up this town. To Ron's point and his committee's point, we're not gonna fuel the engine that we need to fuel to rebuild downtown Milford and the economics. That's a great point.
And these 3 property owners don't have a plan to recover these
Yeah,
buildings.
absolutely. Yep. Bobby.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just as a precursor to my questions and comments, I would like to say that I wished we had taken up Article, is it 9? And which is the one on the,
That's why I asked Chairman.
I
Buchanan.
had preferred-
I didn't know which order we wanted to do
12.
these in.
12, thank you.
Yep.
Because I think we are owed a plan, and if I read and interpret that article as is, that is to provide money to prepare, or to hire a consultant to prepare a plan, and answer some of the questions that I think are being asked here tonight. So again, that's just a comment.
And we can wait to vote on this till after we hear their presentation. That doesn't.
That's a possibility.
Yeah,
but I
whatever
mean,
you guys.
I think people would feel better with a plan.
Whatever you guys want to do. Yep.
I keep hearing about parking and parking, and I will share with you.
Yes.
That ever since the warrant came out, twice a day, I took a ride around town and looked at the parking lots behind the old Casey Hardware building, behind your building, behind the Grants, and also behind the old State Theater.
Yeah.
There were parking spaces there every single day, twice a day. How many? I don't know. So my question is, if this is about parking, and we're not gonna pave it, how many parking spaces are we actually gonna provide?
No, it's great, one part of this property.
Today.
Yeah.
Well,
Just one
why
part-
not?
This property, the way the elevation works, Central Street comes straight down. We can get tiered parking there. We can get a lot more parking if it was just a flat lot. It's a tiered
I understand.
parking.
The
and
slope.
we can come in from Central Street and continue the parking lot and get almost like a parking garage, but it'd be more of a rooftop and underneath if we wanted to. But
Okay,
it
see,
could be.
these things, so I think we should have had beforehand. But be that as it may.
No, but it's.
Ronnie, how
yeah.
many spaces potential?
That was my question.
Yeah, no, I'm.
50.
Well,
I
I'm
have
gonna say about 50 spaces
50.
in that one area, and mainly because of the way it's, the elevation works. Yep. And that's almost, that is adding 50% of parking in that whole area.
Bobby, just to your point, if you look at this building and you look at the wall, there's reasons why there are parking spaces available around it. Nobody wants to go down there.
And it's the convenience of parking also, that you
Yeah,
see
right.
scattered parking, but
Exactly.
be a
gotta
customer
walk-
that
you gotta
wants to
walk a little
shop.
bit, yeah.
Whose wife?
So we're looking at considerably more money to prepare this to be parking.
Yeah, and we'll come back to town meeting.
My last comment is, I am looking at a photo of that slide right there. And I am sitting here in amazement that this town does not have bylaws or fire regulations, or zoning enforcement, or I keep hearing blight, that the only answer to respond to this is to buy the property?
No.
Are our hands tied?
No, it's.
No, we're not saying that at all.
So
There-
what
there
are our other
avenues-
options?
There are avenues, and Jerry can talk to it a lot better than me about what our legal options are to go after the owners, and specifically like a property like
I
that.
mean, that's
That-
dangerous.
That's not enough to me, though. And I don't think it's enough to the board, that we look at, securing that building, because it's still gonna sit there, it's still gonna sit there empty, and they don't have a plan to recover that building, they don't have to. Jerry, can you talk to what it is they might be legally obligated to do?
Looking at that building, obviously, it's a hazard. It can easily be gone, and the town could condemn it from that perspective. Order the owner to seal it up, make it close to the weather. That's the extent of the town's authority. And then if the owner doesn't do that, we might be able to go to court to get an injunction, a number of things we could do, but ultimately, it's the responsibility of the owner. So the town could, going through a long process, end up owning the property by virtue of the owner then not paying the taxes, not paying the fees, not paying the charges. That's possible with that building. The other two buildings, I don't think would fall into that category. So as unattractive as they are,
As long as they're boarded up.
as long as they're sealed and boarded up, they're okay. This one,
Actually, I sent
the town could go after from that perspective, but again, it would take time, and a long time, up to a couple of years or more, before the town actually got in a position where it could require it by virtue of the owner refusing to take action. That's assuming the owner did. If the owner just simply sealed it up, it may look worse, but it would just be sealed up, and they might be, then it'd be in compliance with the law. So the town is limited. This one, what's unique about this one is the town doesn't have authority to just go out and take blighted property. No town has that authority. It can be done through a redevelopment authority, it's much more complicated, but a city or town, municipal government can't do that. This is being taken for parking, we can do that. It's a great side benefit that eliminates some blighted areas, but the reason we could, the public purpose that we're taking this for is parking in open space. We can do that, we can't go to my next door neighbor, the house may not look good, and do the same thing. It's gotta be a public purpose, and parking in the open space to satisfy that public purpose.
Well, that's a great segue into my last comment, is, are we not setting a precedent here? What's wrong, you mentioned about your walk from Sacred Heart Church up to the police station, and you saw many properties that you thought could use some dressing up.
Yeah,
for want of a better
and
term.
they're just facade improvements and nothing
Right.
major
'Cause
like
my
this. Yeah.
My understanding is these properties and taxes are all up to date on them, right? Correct information? Yeah. So if I'm a property owner and it's falling apart, why don't I just continue to let it fall apart and have the town buy it?
That's about what's
I mean,
happening.
Yeah, I'm
Again, Bob,
concerned
if I
about that
can,
too.
But how long, and again, you guys remember longer than I do. I don't remember these ever looking any different. I'm 41 years old.
I agree.
So,
That's what I'm saying.
but if we're gonna give property owners 40 years to get there, I'll take them on.
Well, hopefully
But
we
It's
don't.
time for these to go.
Hopefully we don't.
But that's starting now. 30 years, people held the same seats I'm in, same seats these guys in, same seats you're in, and this has been allowed to happen. We've
mean,
gotta
I-
be the change agents, or
I
it's not, or
applaud
it's
the
gonna keep
effort,
going.
believe me, I'm all behind it.
No, I appreciate that, and I am getting emotional about it. because
I'm concerned
this
when I
is-
see something like
because
this in my town, that's sitting there
Your
like this,
kids,
and our
me,
hands are
let me
tied.
tell you, we have people.
They're not tied, we're offering an option.
But Bill,
If I
it's
can,
been like this
and I
for
just
quite a
wanna-
while.
I just want to add this, and
It's been there
maybe,
quite a while.
and maybe this is more for the, Al's 7 fans that are watching this tonight at home. But it is an
That many?
emotional
That
issue
many?
because it's my peers as well. Again, I'm 41 years old. I have more friends that are leaving this town that are coming back. And it is these types of things. They go see a concert at Central Tavern. There's no place to park on a Thursday night. Sorrento's slamming, the dance studio's slamming, Central Tavern is slamming, another very successful business and restaurant in
Those are
town.
across from Central
They're across from them. There's nowhere to go. I just think this is all part of a package, and I really do believe a plan should come. I can't wait for it, and I'm excited about it, but I think this is the first step. You talk to Marlboro, you talk to Hudson, parking, parking, parking. It all comes down to that. That's economic development.
I'm all set.
I'm all set to go ahead. I think we've kicked this can hard enough now. Let me just ask one question, please. No,
I'm all done, but let me ask a question.
have we looked to federal and state assistance to help fund some of this?
I think we can once we have the insultant, but you have to remember, when it comes to the community block grants, we
Okay.
got so much and we had such a
We've done
good
pretty
run.
well
You guys
already.
know.
That's it.
We
We got
we
shut
don't
off.
qualify anymore. They don't want to hear from the town.
That
government.
was- we need to
20 years ago,
reassess.
that
We
was-
were told that.
That was the
But
last
we
time
have-
anything was
we
done
haven't
downtown.
ruled that out.
Absolutely not.
So we'd actually could seek some assistance. And if we get a consultant that can work the numbers.
It's there, we'll find it.
And you're always, the town would always be on the hook for acquisition in any of those.
Okay, I move favorably, if we can move favorably. I would like to move on this. because
Can I just quick, to
Thank
hit
you.
Jeff, and then I want Jack, and then Al wants something.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, everybody, for the presentation. It's great. We need to go. I'm actually with Aldo a lot on this with the abatement, if there is an abatement. I'm also with Aldo is what's the end cost? $750, the parking lot's not done. You're talking about a parking deck. I get an idea what that costs. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money that is not in this article, you know, that I know we're gonna come back. I think we owe it to the town. And I know we're talking about the plan here, but I think we owe it to the town to say, all right, this is what we're doing, but get ready, we're gonna come back for $1.5 million, $2 million for a deck. I don't know the number, but it's substantial, and I think we owe that to the town
gonna be big.
to know what they're getting into for the whole,
Yeah, and I
for the
think
whole
that's,
article.
I think that's.
And Jeff, I think that's a great
there.
question, and that's an option that Ronnie presented to us, but maybe that's not gonna be what's presented. But again, we bought a building for $1 and spent $6 million of it because it was downtown. I gotta
Hopefully
keep
that
saying
won't happen in
that.
this case.
This is not gonna be this case.
But it
Anyway,
could, but it could.
it could.
It could.
It could, but I'm just saying.
I'm
but
not advocating
If
for that.
nothing, worst case scenario, what do we end up with? We end up with open space, this not being in the center of town.
We end up with a
And I
nicer
think that has a
Milford.
price on it.
We cleaned up a mess that we've been looking at for 40 years.
At least my whole life.
It's about time we got up off our butts and did something about it,
Oh,
so
I
let's
like-
go
I
forward.
like that,
Jack.
Jerry.
We don't need to talk about it anymore. Sorry.
Yes, sir.
Not believe this, but I don't think you're asking for enough money.
Yeah, I'm a little afraid of
The reason why I
that too.
say that is because if you figure you can buy it for about $525 in that general area, leaves you $225 left over. So the $525 is gone, it's because that's for the purchase price. $225 will probably eat up the whole raising of the 3 properties. But then, if you're going that far, instead of keep coming back, I would suggest if you get a price for the whole thing, buy the building, raise the property, level the land,
Rate it?
all right, grade the land, and then pave it. Then we're all done with it.
Jack, and I agree. I understand your point, I respect it. What I can't tell you tonight is, would we like to have 2 contiguous properties plus some green space and some benches? What I'd like to be able to do is present that plan to town meeting and show them what they're getting for that. What I'm trying to do, and I think what this board is trying to do, and what Ronnie's advocating for, is that we acquire while we can. And we can always say, benches here, trees here, parking lot here. And some of those things we're talking about in terms of grass, green space, trees, are not big dollars, items going to town meeting. The asphalt is going to be the dollars.
Well, the whole deal is, I'd like to see you get the property, get it paved, get it done. In the interim, before you decide what additions you wanna make, you have a parking lot for the town. Because everyone's saying, we need more parking for the town, we need more parking for the town, but you say, come in, well, we're gonna come in, we're gonna raise the buildings,
gonna
right?
grade it?
We're gonna grade it, and you're still not gonna have a parking lot. So why don't you do it in one shot, and any additional stuff, you can do it later?
So the examples that Will used,
They're in a hurry.
it wasn't any one of those projects that came in all at once for all the dollars up front.
You guys are still answering for it.
Well,
We're still,
I figured that if you get the appropriate appraisal or whatever, get it done, and then later on, because we have a lot of money on the books now, right? Get it done, and then the other things can take place, because the eyesore is gone, and there's a parking facility, and you're, like you're just saying, that some businesses had no parking. Well, what good is it gonna do if you raise it and level it and it's all dirt?
Jack, and I love that, but again, it's been like that for 40 years. Why can't we do it in this fall meeting and come back in the spring after a plan if you guys support it? And then it's only a matter of months.
you can.
It's not years anymore.
Last thing, I agree with what Jack's saying, but I don't want to give you another dollar until you come here and
Thank you.
say,
Exactly.
here's my vision.
Yes, yeah. I
Right?
like that.
Because then I'll know if I want a little park there, or if I want 2 steps, but, you know, when I look at signs on top of signs, I look at awnings that were put up by Paul Revere. I mean, they were great then.
Yes.
You know, now when we start talking about investing in our town, I mean, we ask the businesses to, I don't know what the exact number is, but to pitch in an extra 50% every year.
Premium.
So we're gonna take 10 million.
We're real good at that.
We're really good and we collect it real well.
Yes.
I'd be happier to invest, to say, you know, we gotta give back a teeny little bit and help them redo their signs, help them redo their awnings, help them have parking, because when I go down Sorrento Room when we were a kid, I didn't wanna go there, because I could never find parking. Now, I cheat, like everybody else, I park next door, and I don't have to go out of my town. I can feel good about going there. So what I would say is, don't come back and ask for another dollar until you have a real study, a real vision that we can vet, and please don't come back 3 days before. Take the time, bring it to us, let's all really look at it, and then we can support, because it's not gonna be $1 million, it's gonna be millions.
Yes.
But it's our town.
Alberto, then you're making, look, he's smiling, I'm smiling, this is exactly what these guys
They're
and
gonna do
Laura
in a
have
minute.
been talking about for step 2, step 3,
If I'm
step
making
4.
him smile,
I mean, that's good, this is a good thing.
Willie, unfortunately, I disagree with you. I'm not one to spend a lot of money. But if you're gonna go that far, it's gonna be a lot cheaper if you pave the thing now than when you have to keep coming back and going for plans like that. Because with a plain parking lot, it's not gonna be that difficult to decide if you wanna put this there and with that. And the same thing, you're servicing the town, right? Because, well, hey,
But then we're not doing the plan, which is what a majority of the members want to see before we do any of that.
I'll be quick.
So it's kind of contradictory, that's all, that's why,
One quick one.
all I can
We're
say is
wrapping
you're
it.
gonna have
We're wrapping.
a good parking lot
Chris,
there.
move this
It's
on.
gonna
Put
be
a bow
a
on it.
I know.
benefit for the town.
on it.
Really, we could sit here till 10 o'clock tonight.
Quick, Jeff, quick.
I'll be quick, and I'll be quick, and this just supports the point that I made about the.
But you can move the question.
You know,
Gentlemen, come on.
we use the youth center, for example, and this is the same thing. Yeah, the youth center was 5 million, it's 6 million. And why is it 6 million? Because once we spent the 5, who's gonna say no to the other million? We're in the same boat here. We spend $1 million on this, and now you need another $1 million for the parking. That's why I say we need the plan. I think we need to know what the number is.
The difference is they're giving us money through the small business extra charge.
you got it.
Just one quick thought, along with what Jeff just said. If you do the math, the value here is taking the building down. The value here is not parking spaces, because do the math, and you're gonna figure out how much it costs you for a parking space.
Absolutely.
Around $15,000, that's like going into Boston and buying one. You know, I mean, there's no parking lot in the town of Milford that.
Well, listen,
costs $15,000.
Aldo, I just, to retain one of my tenants, I had to purchase a small little lot for 7 spots, and it was that kind of money.
The thing is, I just want everybody to understand, Jack's point, $750 is not gonna get us home.
No,
It just is not gonna happen.
Not even saying, and I don't think anyone is, saying something, I think that.
I certainly hope that's not what any of us
No, no.
presented, 'cause I
No.
don't think it was, but.
It's the beginning.
All right, so let's just wrap this up. First of all, I just want to make my comments, everyone talk. Main Street is not going to fix itself. I'm sorry. We've tried this, we've tried it. Main Street is getting worse, it's not getting better. We need to be proactive. This is being proactive. I'm sorry. We have to do something. And sitting back and saying, I hope. Let me tell you, it hasn't done anything. I think that the plan that they brought through is a very proactive plan. Is it the best plan in the world? No. But is it good for what we have with 3 buildings lined up that we could potentially do that? For now, I think it's pretty darn good, okay? I think if they have specifically said that they do not have a plan for this on purpose, because they don't. They want it to be thought out. This needed to be quick and was time sensitive because of the purchase need to be lined up. But I'm happy that they don't have a plan for this, that they came up with in 5 weeks. I'm really happy about that. I'm glad that they're saying, we are gonna take the time, think about this, and actually have a good plan for what we're gonna do with this land.
And Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
there's
before we go,
also,
thank you.
again, and it might be emotional, but pride is reemerging in this town. And we're on the cusp. We have the citizens from Milford. How much work have you folks done? because of things just like this. We have the flags at the park, and we get compliments on. Thousands and thousands of people share it with their friends across the country. We have a gentleman in town that wants flags further down the parade route. We have things going on now. We have organizations formed. We had concerned citizens 50 years ago, 45 years ago, only because I'm a student of history. I know that. That was before me. Now we have the concerned citizens. Pride is reemerging. This is all part of that bigger plan. And I think that that's what we need.
It is the center of the universe.
It is. And I mean, now, no, the Natick Mall came in when I was a little kid.
Prospect Heights?
Tonight. That's Saturday night. But listen, my whole life,
favorable.
I get a moment, I'm-
Yeah.
my
Move
whole life
favorable.
growing up, we left downtown to go shopping in
already made the
Framingham.
motion.
I now go to
already made the
Morin's,
motion.
I work out at Momentum, I go to Pizza Chef for my pizzas,
already
I go to
did.
Central, I go to Sorrento.
And that's why we need.
These things are changing.
Really, that's why we need 200 of
Saloons,
you.
I don't wanna forget Rosalie and Joe.
You gotta start eating at home once in a while.
All right,
My wife doesn't cook.
I just want to let the chairman go.
You said that
All
on
right.
TV.
You good, Chairman?
Yes.
Excellent. I have a motion by Jerry, a second by Mike for a favorable recommendation on Article 6 for $750,000 for the acquisition of the properties on Central Street. All those in favor? Is anybody down?
It's great.
No? Unanimous. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I know that was heated, but you know what? That shows that we care.
You wanna talk about the consultant?
Where are you going? Where are you going?
Now you can sit. All right. Next, the next article, and that's why, guys, I wasn't sure whether we were gonna flip-flop this, which one we were gonna do first or second. This one is hand in hand with the acquisition of the buildings. And this is for the consultant that was referred several times by Ronnie throughout his presentation on the buildings, is that the committee is looking for, in Article 12 is looking for money for a consultant. So I'm not gonna steal your wind, so, Ronnie, go ahead.
Okay, this is gonna answer a lot of the questions we had. The initial proposal I made for downtown Milford was for the town itself to help give back to the merchants and the property owners, to create its own grant of $300,000 is what I came up with, because I went through every building downtown and earmarked, say, 30 buildings, which I have all documented, that need some kind of improvement. Awning, paint, sign, lighting. As simple as that. Now, I actually went and met each one of the property owners, and I've got them on, absolutely agreeing to do something with assistance. If we leave it up to the landlord to put the money back into the building, it's probably not gonna happen. The last time we had a boost in the downtown was 20 years ago, when we took advantage of the federal grant money. And I took advantage of that with a few of the buildings, and we got new awnings. It was like a 75-25% split. We paid 25%, the government paid 75%. But that made a lot of people get involved and take care of their buildings. And we had a nice look there for a few years, until we're here now, almost 20 years later. Not, except for a few of my buildings, none of those buildings have been updated since. And I know why. It's just very hard to put an extra dollar away to put into your building when you're getting lower rents, and you've got that 50% premium with the dual tax rate. It is what it is. It's very stifling. So my proposal was to have the town do the same thing, create its own grant, because all the grant money, we've used it all up, and there's very little out there, although we've got this consultant firm which is gonna help us to see if there is any extra money. So we're gonna investigate all of that. But they're also gonna help, through Jerry Moody's recommendation, was to hire this consultant firm also to help us with getting approval from the legislation for the town to be able to give back to property owners. And it's the 75-25% split is what I'm asking the town to do. And I've sat down with the property owners. Some of them own 4 or 5 properties. They're not gonna put any money into their buildings. It's either from they can't afford to, or they're they're just fed up with the paying so much in taxes, but they are willing to come aboard. I got the okay from everybody I talked to, if the town is willing to assist, if we can get legislation written for this. I've got everybody on board ready to do, and you'll see from one end to the other that the town will look so much better, and it's not gonna take much. It's not gonna take much at all. There's 25 to 30 buildings that need awnings, signage, lighting. If the town can give back a little bit that way, I've got the landlords on board, and I'll follow it all through, and the part of the consultant firm will help us come up with the guidelines to do the 75-25% split to help the town get legislation written to allow them to give money to a private owner. That was my proposal, and that's part of what this consultant firm is gonna be hired for, also coming up with standards in awnings, signage, and colors of the buildings, all to get more of a uniform look. So, I think that answers some of the questions.
How much money is it?
20,000.
20,000, that's what I thought.
Jimmy Kincaid, were you doing that to
Okay,
talk?
No, I'm doing that, so Ronnie doesn't have to hold it.
Oh, that's fine. All right, wasn't sure. All right, guys, so a lot of what Ronnie just went over, I sent in the document. I don't know if all of you had a chance to take a look at it. I emailed it as well as put it up on the drive, the document from the Downtown Revitalization Committee. So if you had read that, a lot of that, what Ronnie was referring to was in that. So with that being said, I want to open it up for comments.
So what you're asking for is $20,000 to develop the plan we've been yelling at you that we want.
That's correct.
Just want to make sure.
Yes. yeah.
We're not talking about 300,000.
Bingo.
No, not yet.
That's what
Not
I'm
yet.
saying.
Yeah, not
This
yet.
is
No, no,
20
right.
grand
Not yet. I'm
to
sorry.
do what we're asking you to do.
I get it. I
Yes.
did the articles
Yeah, yeah.
in the wrong order, Alberto.
Awesome,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So that makes me feel better.
But I'd like you to prepare
And if
for
it wasn't,
that.
it is now.
No, it's legit that you're coming, you know, as Jeff said, we're not voting on $1 million acquisition. We're voting on a major investment where we're gonna take some of the money from the business owners that they've been paying as a surtax
Yeah.
and invest it back, as well as some of our money, to generate new businesses, more tax revenue. And then the emotion comes in where, hey, it's our town. You know, everybody laughs at me calling it the center of the universe, but for our families, this is the center of our universe.
It absolutely is.
You know, a lot of us ran away and moved back because we really believe in this little town. So I like this idea.
And if I can, just again, to give credit to Ron and the entire committee, again, they're coming here and telling you everything that they know up until this point. There's no giving you limited information and then coming back and coming back. They're sharing everything that they've got up to this point, and I want to make sure that, if nothing else, I want to make sure that I publicly commend them for that, because over the years, many different departments and many different projects, you guys have been fed piecemeal. That is not how we want to operate. So take that for what it is. Maybe that's my opinion, but they're really just trying to share everything that they've got, and I think that's admirable.
I think,
Jerry? Oh, Mike, I'm sorry. It's coming from over there.
Yeah, so, first off, I love the idea of having a study. I think that's the important route, gives us the plan. I really struggle with the idea of moving forward with grants, you know, taxpayer dollars to go to privately owned buildings. I would be much more in favor of what we did with the Consigli building with the TIF. I don't know if that's an option, of doing a tax incremental financing. You know, that way, it's delaying an increase in tax versus, you know, taking.
So they can reinvest those dollars rather than pay the
Exactly.
full
So
tax
that,
dollar amount?
You know, that way they have the incentive to do big improvements in their buildings, not having to worry about a huge uptick in their tax liability, while at the same time, we're not taking the tax money from senior citizens on, you know, fixed income and then giving it to private business owners.
Mike, when we look at the community block grant, I apologize.
No, it's great. No.
When we look at the community block grant, that in fact has been a tax. The state doesn't make anything, so the dollars that they gave back to this community came from this community. And a whole lot of others, right? We just got in line. I guess my point is, it's always going to be tax dollars that pay and in some large part to some of these programs, whether they be grants or whatever, whether it's state grants, whether it's a town version of a community block grant.
I promise.
But when
See what they come back
you want to
with.
raise the issue, and I appreciate it, of the fixed income senior citizen, what about the money that came from those businesses?
Sure, and I think that's fair. I like the idea of a TIF. I think it's favorable to a grant because you're basically going to get increased tax revenues in the future.
Part of that, Mike, these money would be, I don't know the term,
Designated.
it'd be recapture. It'd be a recapture on it, where this money is, a lien is put on the property that the money is given to, of the owner. And that's similar to what the plan was 20 years ago, where there's a recapture part of that, where if you, it was up to $20,000 was the max that we were gonna put on each building. And there's only 2 buildings that probably would take anywhere close to that. So this 20,000 would be a lien that would be put on that property, and if they sold that property, the town would get that back, and it'd be prorated. It'd go away over a few years, but it wasn't giving the money, that 75%. It was a recapture part of that. Eventually, if they own the property for the next 5 years, that would go away. So that helps a
I'm
little
just
bit.
concerned that like grants, whatever improvements we do with grants,
Also, I want to
20 years from now, we might be in the same.
on point, because we're
location.
talking about a consultant here.
That's
That's
it,
really
20,000.
what we're talking
Yeah, we're getting into the.
We're getting a little further down the road.
The cart before
Guys,
the horse here.
Selectman Walsh,
Just real quick
please.
to Mike's point, and Ronnie, correct me if I'm wrong, the one disadvantage to the TIF, Mike, is you have no guarantee they're gonna spend that money that they're saving on taking care of their property, spending money in their property, where a grant is very fund-specific. It tells, and when you get those funds, you have to spend those funds in such a way. And I'm with you with offering TIFs, but you offer them a TIF and they save $5,000 in their taxes, there's no guarantee to the town they're gonna go out and change that sign, change that awning. The grant ties their hands that they're gonna get that money, they have to do it.
So guys, we'll talk about that when the consultant comes back and says we should put up signs. So right now, we can keep the
Can we
conversation to
just
the
go for
20,000.
for the 20,000 for the consultant and move ahead? Because that's
what
what we need to do right
That
now.
sounds like a favorable recommendation,
It is a
Terry?
favorable
I
recommendation.
second it.
Second by Alberto. All those in favor for a favorable recommendation for 20,000? Thank you. Now,
Take the money and run.
you guys were later on the schedule. Do you mind? I had Jose, I know, has been flying in, and he was earlier on the agenda.
That was my question, because I'm not sure what they were able to accomplish before I got here. Excuse me for being late.
Nothing.
Are
We have stabilization, tax,
Okay.
big things, and then marijuana. So, Jose and Reno, if I could trouble you guys to come up, thank you so much, guys. We jumped you guys.
We're not talking about marijuana.
I'll talk to you tomorrow, all right?
Ronnie, I want parking spaces.
We're gonna do deeded spaces, right?
Thank you, Ronnie.
Sorry, guys, we skipped you, and I thought we'd come back to you, but then we got busy.
This was great.
We got tied up on Central Street. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 2 familiar faces in front of us for Article 15. The Town Meeting Study and Improvement Committee has put an article on the warrant. Perk up, gentlemen. Coffee's on. All right. Jose.
Yes, so, let's give you a quick summary of this. I think a lot of you heard at a town meeting, Reno's got up there and explained what we're doing, but just a quick summary. The citizens from Milford ended up setting up a committee. They have public meetings on a regular basis, and one of the, it was actually Reno that came in and proposed this improvement of the town meeting, to improve the experience of town meeting members, to improve the process, and look at, again, just ways to improve it. So citizens from Milford took that on and formed the subcommittee. We've been working with the selectmen, and part of that included getting a member from every precinct on this subcommittee. It also included
3 members from the Citizens from Milford, included Mike Nofree as well at large. So it had representation. And the purpose of the, the whole mission of the group was to determine of what steps we could take to, again, improve town meeting. So what we did is we actually worked with a consultant. There was no charge to us on this, a professional survey company who helped us develop a survey and also coordinated the acquisition of the results or of the people taking the surveys, town meeting members. So we formed the survey, we sent it out. Was it 79% of town meeting members responded to the survey, which is a great number. And from that, we were able then to spend the next 4 months as a group to try to determine what actions to take. And there were short-term goals and there were long-term goals. So the short-term that came out of that was like, for example, I think the selectmen are taking a step on that, was over 80% of the people said, change the hour from start time for town meeting from 7:30 to 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
That's an idea of what came out of that. Then there was long-term, more longer-term items. For example, the audio and the visual component came up again. So the visual especially. And that's an item that needs a lot more work, all right? The analysis before to come to this board again and others to look at what needs to go in it, what the cost is, and what's the best system. So again, the mission of that group that was sponsored by Citizens from Milford was just to initially get the feedback from town meeting members on how to improve. We've done that. The mission's completed, but the work is not. So what this article is basically to form a standing committee now. That's basically a standing committee reports to town meeting members, officially, not Citizens from Milford anymore, that will now work on a regular basis to continuously improve town meeting. That's really a summary of what this is all about.
So it legitimizes the work that was done previously.
The whole process,
Yes.
exactly.
So what's the financial?
There's no,
There's
we're
no.
not asking for money.
There's no financial, that will come in the future of whatever items they.
So we don't have any action to take?
Refer to sponsor.
We don't
Yeah.
have,
Yeah, guys, so,
we don't have any action to take, just refer to sponsor.
that's what I was hoping, Jerry.
Thank you. Refer to sponsor, please.
I have a motion for refer to sponsor by Jerry, second by Andy. All those in favor for refer to sponsor? I'm sorry.
Why are you sorry? It's fine.
I
thought you would ask a lot of questions.
Thanks for
You
coming.
did a good job.
Yeah, I was on Logan, I got here pretty
You
quick.
know, I was waiting for you to lean forward and say one more thing, and I thought Jack's head was gonna go down, but that's all right.
lesson with this committee.
Hey, good talk, though. Nice talk.
I was hoping you asked for money for visual.
Nobody asked me either.
We knew better.
Thank you guys very much. I appreciate you coming in.
Take
Thank
it
you.
with you. How
Come
we doing
back.
on the Pledge of Allegiance?
That was good. I needed some.
All right, guys, we
job.
are right down the
And the
home
national
stretch.
anthem.
Yeah, great, let's go.
Whooping and driving.
Yep.
Pledge of Allegiance.
And the national anthem both.
All right, we're
All
ready.
right, Selectmen, Article 14, the Selectmen have put on an article,
What's this? That's just before.
marijuana.
Oh, marijuana.
Already, that was done last week.
It's the same language that everybody voted on in the community.
Didn't we voted last week?
You voted last week on that one.
Verbatim.
With all due respect, I'm confused. I'm recording that this was already dealt with last
All
week.
right,
Yeah,
all
well,
right, all right. Senior
You asking
moment.
for-
Wow, Chris makes a mistake.
Are you asking for reconsideration of?
No, don't even start.
Too young for that.
All right, all right.
Alberto, I just want to go home.
I screwed up. Zachary? No, maybe that was, I'll blame it on you, but that's.
All right, it was Zach.
You made a mistake.
Phil and I, you can have
Uh-oh.
a senior moment.
It's his turn.
We apologize for Zach.
No, that was, guys, sorry, that was completely my fault. So look at it, how much closer to the end?
About 19.
Yes, we did.
Those having a senior decade.
All right,
That's not nice.
said that.
guys,
Said it, he stole it, that's it.
all right, guys, we're there. Jack told me I got till 9:30.
What article are we actually
Fair
on?
enough.
Article 26, the stabilization account contribution.
So we had a financial team meeting, thank you, last Friday, and we, before going into the numbers, rehashed what we set out for goals and objectives for the year. If you remember the balance sheet that we put out early February, March. It had our traditional earmark of $500,000 for stabilization and a bunch of other items that the entire complete package, I'll get more into at the next article. We were able to set out what we had accomplished for as a town as far as the financing and optimizing our funding sources. So we are able to do 500,000 as planned. One thing I think I'd like to get out of this committee tonight is whether we want to put all 500 into the long-range planning account, or we want to split it between the traditional stabilization and the long-term planning account.
Before we open that for discussion, I want to ask Al, because he has a better idea of what the capital forecast is for the next couple of years, if he has a recommendation on what he thinks.
I think we're okay at 1.5 million for the next 24 months, as long as we keep it there. Now, if anything comes up with large investments, then I'd say we should take care of that out of free cash or alternate. The other thing is, for the last 3 years, we've agreed that unofficially, we're earmarking 3 investments of 200,000 for the parks, so that when we got to $1 million, $1.2 million, we could do a field. I would like to see at least 200 of that, again, earmarked, just, I mean, we can't.
That's great.
We cannot say we're doing it, that's town meeting. But in the past, the FinCom's been saying, well, we got the extra free cash, let's put another 200. That would make 800,000. So now at that point, we need another year, to go to 1 million for sure.
It's $1 million.
Well, no, but it may be 1.2, because what I think will happen is they'll lay down the field, they'll put in all the.
No, I'm saying that we've already put in.
Oh.
Yeah, even more than that. There's close to
So then that's
2
fine.
million.
Yeah.
Remember, we at one point, we're going to do the ladder truck out of the stabilization account, and because of the historic free cash number last year.
He's talking about the allocated free
The
cash.
200,000 we put in for the fields, I think this would make it $1 million.
There's no actual
Yes,
funds.
yes, it will. Yes, it will. Yes.
So we're putting in 400 for the field?
No, 200. This will be the fifth time we've
Is
done
this the
it.
5th year already?
This will get to the million.
This is $1
This
million.
will- This will be the 5th year.
Then I'm happy, because then we'd have one more payment later.
Yep.
To put in lights, camera action, all the good stuff.
I could be wrong, but I'm
No,
90% sure this is the.
So this brings it up to 1 million.
To $1 million.
Yeah.
My question is really to Al, the 750,000 on the Central Street purchase, where is that gonna come out?
Okay, my understanding is projects like Central Street that are strategic investments, large scale, would come out of raise and appropriate, not, because obviously, we got 1.3 million this year. If you took 750 out of it, Tui Toy doesn't happen, air conditioning for the police doesn't happen.
Why don't we let Zach go over everything?
So to answer that question, I mean, we really try early on not to identify funding sources for individual projects till we have a chance to look at what our actual availability and funding in total will be, and then try to put it together as a nice package, again, to try to accomplish the goals and objectives we've set out as a town. So that 750,000 was able to slide into the raise and appropriate column as we had sufficient capacity there while still meeting our overall objective, which will be the next
Zach,
article as well.
In your opinion, we're okay
Yes.
to meet our commitments, strategic objectives, without any problems with your plan?
Very proud to say we are able to, yes.
It's still well under the levy.
And then, but then we can go through the minutia later.
Yep.
But you're saying overall, we're solid.
Yes, we are.
And this goes hand in hand with 27, so
Correct.
we're gonna continue the conversation along about the whole thing.
Can I ask
Sure,
a
absolutely.
detail? What's the current stabilization balances, both accounts now, going into
Both of them combined are right around $20 million right now.
Can you
And
break
what
it
about
down
the
for me?
It's around, it's off the top of my head, but 17.8,
Yeah.
something like
That's
that,
fine.
and 2.2 in the other,
I'm
yeah.
at 2.2?
Yeah,
What's our current free cash?
3.39
3
million.
million.
Yep,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Zach, what about the the reserve for self-insurance? What is that at?
That, if you recall, we appropriated an additional $300,000 to that account at the last October, this time last year. And both those combined balances are over 6 million now, which are very healthy.
Yeah, okay, all right. Yeah.
Does anyone else have any questions for Zach on the $500,000 contribution to stabilization?
We have,
Oh, it sounds like, just before you take a vote, that,
please.
would it be, I would suggest the 200,000 to the short-term account, 300,000 to the
that's fine.
normal account.
That's fine.
Yeah,
We'll go.
okay, great,
Two to the.
We don't need to vote
to
on
the
that, do we?
Planning, 300 to the main.
Mr. Chairman?
correct.
We don't need to vote on that.
Motion, no, not on the allocation, the two separate things, no.
Oh, can we vote on the 500?
That's what I mean, that's what I
gotta
mean,
vote on
500, and I assume that was a motion from you, I heard.
Yes, it was.
Favorable recommendation from Jerry for the 500 to stabilization, second by Jeff. All those in favor on Article 26, a $500,000 contribution, unanimous. Last article, Article 27 is taxpayer relief to offset, money to offset the tax rate.
Oh,
Zachary.
this again goes hand in hand with the objectives we set out early in the budgeting process. I want to make clear that our main objective here was to get to a target excess levy capacity figure, not necessarily a singled out taxpayer relief article. So despite the fact that this number is 1.3 million, it is combined with the available levy that we are leaving to hit our target and exceed the target of 3.2 million, and it's closer to, sorry, 3.2 million. The way the cookie crumbles here will be closer to 3.3 million, which, again, I said I was very proud of how this falls out. There was at one time where this committee doubted the ability to even keep this target, and we've been able to do so. And we arrived at the target to basically have 11 playing field as the prior year, which through the magic of Proposition 2.5 would basically mean that the taxes would increase below 2.5%. And again, it becomes difficult to really say that that's exactly what's going to happen due to the fact that you just heard heavily about a tax shift, and different assessed values could alter that, even though with the exact same figure. But this was our target. We were able to accomplish this. At the same time, as you know, the funding source for this article is free cash. It has to be. You're not going to offset something to raise and appropriate. You can't do it. So it must be from free cash, and this number works very well because it also carries a little over $2 million into the spring. I know your chairman's very big on clearing the snow and ice deficit, as am I. I think it's a very intelligent move. We haven't had to raise a snow and ice deficit in over 4 years now, which, trust me, puts us ahead of the game and ahead of a lot of other communities that don't have that luxury. So this provides a nice safety net for us. I suggest we continue that process. If we get lucky and don't have a crazy snow and ice year, we have those funds available to do what we want to do with them at that time.
Yep. And before I open it up, yeah, Phil, I want to get you first. Just this is some unbelievable work by the financial team. When you look at this funding source and you look that we still are able to do all the things that we're doing for capital, at the last second jump in with $750,000 for a building, do $500,000 to stabilization, okay, and keep our taxpayer relief at that excess levy capacity of $3.2 million, we're doing good, guys. Okay, and I know that free cash number at 1.3 million, it's deceptive. That number looks lower, and it looks like the taxpayers are not getting the relief that they have in the past. Actually, that's not the case, because it's the excess levy capacity, the $3.2 million that's maintained, that we never thought we could do. We did it.
But Chairman, you said something at our financial team meeting that I thought really put it in perspective. So it's two different roads to get to the same place.
Yeah.
Basically, we're doing it in a different way, but accomplishing what we wanted to set out to do. And I thought it was going to be a difficult task to get here. So again, it's pretty impressive that we're able to do so.
And just compliment your team, Zach, and the selectmen, and everybody else who put this together. It's
Zach, give
just-
me those numbers again, please.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
Zach,
can you just let him-
1.3 million from free cash.
oh, sure.
Create an excess levy capacity of 3.3 million.
Chris, just one,
I will, Jerry, just let me get the.
Yeah, you know, Zach, I looked at your spreadsheet, again, I echo what Chris said. You know, really good job. 3.4 in free cash. Of that, 1.3 is putting on the rate, leaving us with 2 million for next year. But when we get to this 3.3 on the rate, what did we do last year? Was it 3.2?
Yeah,
I just, because we're
3.26,
we're
yeah.
maintaining what we put on the tax rate from
Exactly.
last year. That's my
Exactly.
only question.
Yep,
Okay.
exactly. So this is really an attempt to try to control the tax increase, and we're at a level now where we can target these things. That's why I'm so proud of it, when we set out to target this, and now
That's
you
good.
see we
Yeah.
have a plan to do that.
You know, there was a concern years ago that we'd never be able to maintain that level of the tax rate.
there
That
was.
someday that we were gonna have this huge hit to the taxpayers because of it.
Well, Phil, if I can, at the financial team meeting, that was literally my single question at the end was, folks, explain this to me because of the number looking lower than it is for taxpayer relief, but the totality and the fact that we're maintaining was just super impressive because
no, it's good.
that was my only concern in this whole thing. And again, we look at the whole package, and Chris, it's your meeting, so I'm glad you did, but you literally stole my thunder in the sense that the whole no, the whole package, no, you did beautiful. The whole package, buying the buildings, taxpayer relief, carrying $2 million forward. I mean, and again, it's good, I guess you didn't, but I will. You also have to credit everyone, yourself and everyone around this table, because far before I became a board member on the Board of Selectmen, you folks were still advocating and supporting. I mean, you've been here the whole time, giving taxpayer relief. That is still unheard of across this state, and you folks need to be commended as well.
I recall discussions where we were talking about, we're leaving money on the table.
Oh, yeah.
This is some 12 years ago, right?
Yeah, probably from me.
All right, guys, look, I can see the finish
I
line.
think Selectman Kincaid, someone needs to tell town meeting what you just said and enunciate it, so, because the number is less for taxpayer relief this year than it was last year. So it's gonna look, it's gonna,
But we accomplished the exact same task, so.
I appreciate that.
I
That
think,
should be
I
explained.
think Chairman
We're-
Moore
we're
will
all-
do a good job.
we're all
with
in
that.
tune
You're
with it
okay.
here.
It's inside baseball, you're right.
but when you get to town meeting, somebody's gonna get up and say, well, last year we got X, I motion we do X.
Yeah,
And,
Well, you
and
do it
and
well.
turn the whole thing all over on you.
correct.
So
Yeah.
be ready for that.
We're giving back more this year.
No, we're not.
No, what was our excess,
We're ending with more, yes.
what was our excess levy capacity last year?
3.2. This is gonna
And
be
thi-
closer to 3.3.
Okay.
We're actually even gone up a
Better,
little,
yeah.
not even just maintained.
Yeah, but we're giving less back, so net, it's about the same, but it's a little less.
See what happens,
It's all about the
how it gets
excesses,
twisted and
Steve.
turned
Okay.
real quick?
That's really the end of the
No,
story.
but I'm just, net, it's a little bit less this year.
One last comment, if I may.
On the inside
So,
track.
to the two chairmen's points, trust me, when I go to bonding, I mean, we just had this conversation, myself with the town treasurer, with our Moody's call to be ranked for the water company. This stuff is very impressive to them. It's unheard of in many degrees, and we're doing all the right financial moves. We really are. As a community, this doing all the right things. So, really good
Zach is
stuff.
the bell of the finance director ball when he goes out with all his friends.
We paid off our snow and ice.
Yeah, exactly.
We're 3 million below our levy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Zach.
Got a lot of bragging rights in
Yeah,
there.
that's All right, guys. Anybody else on Article 27, applying $1.3 million of free cash to offset the tax rate? I have a motion by Aldo, second by Andy. All those in favor? Unanimous.
Done.
All right, guys.
You.
Thank you guys very
Thank you.
much.
Have a good night.
No, everybody, you guys can leave. Everybody else stay put for a minute.
Okay,
Yes.
At least we got the air.
throw me out.
Yes, thank you for the AC.
Yeah.
You're not here.
No, yeah, no.
Get your jackets out of there.
I'm gonna put it on in a minute.
Yeah.
What time Saturday?
Yeah. All right.
I'm gonna say they ain't coming to the meeting.
You're my idol, I gotta tell you. I learned from you. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, that works too. Oh, thanks.
gonna speak, Phil, keep.
And who's that?
Was that the,
I read them. Thank you, Mr. Amadonzo. All right, I'm going to be very quick. I want to thank everybody. Last week went quicker, sorry. But I want to thank everybody. Once again, you guys, the amount of work you guys put in to get this done. We do a lot of fighting, we get arguing, we get red in the face. We don't like once in a lifetime or whatever. But look at what we just saw in the Articles 26 and 27, what we can do in the financial condition of the town, and that's who us battling left and right. We may disagree, but in the end, I think we're doing pretty good. All right, that's the official business. Unofficial business. If any of you have not heard the big news in Milford, we are losing a very important member of our committee. Mr. Simarcoli has been appointed as a water commissioner, one of our first water commissioners in the history of Milford. Unfortunately, he is no longer able to serve on the Finance Committee because of that appointment. Phil, I've been with you for a while now, certainly not as long as everybody else. I can't thank you enough for your commitment to Milford.
Thank you.
We certainly all love your long-winded speeches.
I have one. Let's not get carried away, Mr.
But in all seriousness, I mean,
I have
you guys, some of the older members when I came on, I know that I have learned just so much about this town, and you're certainly one of the people that I learned a lot from, certainly from Mark and you and everybody else around here. So I don't think we need to go around the table, but on behalf of everybody, I want to thank you for the service.
Thank you. If I may.
And I know you wanted to
I have a 500-word speech here that
That's short?
Dear Mr. Chairman and fellow committee members, no.
I'd like to thank the Academy.
What I want to say that this is an unbelievable committee. I've been on for 23 years. I think Chuck's been on the longest, then I think Jack, and then Bobby, okay? What we've accomplished during these 23 years is absolutely unbelievable. We've expanded what we've done with Capitol, 2 police stations, fire station, Stacy, Woodland, high school, Godfrey Book, sewer. I mean, the capital improvements that we've made to the community, to fund the operating budgets, to grow stabilization to $20 million. When I started, it was the first or second year we had stabilization. And stabilization was really put in place as a reserve for self-insurance. But that grew to the point that we could actually say, hey, why don't we use stabilization to manage our debt service? So that if we need it, we'll draw it down, and we'll keep funding every year. The funny part, I don't think we've ever drawn it down. and so, but I am proud to really have been on this committee. I am proud to serve with you. I look forward. I know I'll see you again.
Oh, we're gonna beat you up.
Yes, I know.
We're gonna beat you up,
I got
Phil.
Bob, Aldo.
You gotta get those spreadsheets ready.
Jack, Bob, and I.
Aldo. So, but it's been a pleasure. I wish you the best, and I leave you with this. The legacy of the Finance Committee has been, we have not had an override or a debt exclusion ever, and that is the mandate, and continue with that spirit, okay?
That being said, do I have a motion to
You do.
adjourn from
Mr.
Al?
Chairman.
Wow,
Make
everybody.
the motion.
I move we adjourn.
Just wait a second.
What are we doing about the personnel articles that we have not discussed? Are we gonna meet again before town meeting?
Not the town, well,
Or-
at the town meeting, I'll listen to what the committee, I didn't hear from them, so we'll have no
I
comment
would-
at town meeting, so.
I would move unfavorable, because we don't have information.
I'm not gonna do that.
Well,
I apologize. No, the meeting is not, we're not adjourned.
You can refer them to sponsor.
Well, you can, but I'm not,
Gentlemen, with all due respect, they did not come before us, we did not have a discussion. I would say, the report I just sent you just says that. We had no discussion as they did not come before the board. I would
leave it at that.
I would leave it at that. I would
I
not
don't think
want
we
to
should have
take.
an opinion on something that we didn't hear.
Moderator's gonna ask us for a
No
recommendation.
decision favorable or unfavorable.
That's what
We have no
I don't
decision.
think we should comment on. We
Can't
didn't hear
support
it.
it,
I
but we
don't.
do
You
nothing.
can't talk about something we have no information on. That's not,
Can't judge something.
Which is,
yeah, how do you judge when you have
And
an uninformed opinion?
which is why I move unfavorable, not because I'm against the articles, it's because we don't have information to support it. And the lack of information,
I would be inclined to prefer to sponsor before I do an unfavorable.
Oh, yeah.
Money article, isn't it?
I have a
It
problem,
is.
I have a problem
I don't-
trying
I-
to sponsor.
Ladies and gentlemen, please,
We can't
give
refer
me,
to sponsor the money article.
give me 20 seconds left. Thank you,
Sure it
that's
is.
another good point.
because it affects pay, of course it's
Yep.
money.
So with that being said, do I have a motion for refer to sponsor?
Yes, I'll give you that motion, refer that, it's not a money article, it's a.
It is a money article.
It is a money
It is a money article.
That's why,
Either way.
Pardon?
that's why I have a hard time referring to sponsor. It's a money article.
But it's still a money article.
We
It's
should
going- it's
have
going to
discussed
affect.
it and had an opinion on it. We were not given that option. what more can you say?
All right, I have a motion for a response, refer to sponsor. Do I have a second?
Guess not.
So second.
Motion to leave it as discussed, that we just report, they did not come in front of us, and we have no basis to have a recommendation.
I think that's clean.
I think that's clean.
Is that a second? Your last second?
Yeah, I'll.
Second by Phil. All those in favor for basically a no comment from the finance committee? Good. Thanks.
One opposed.
All right, and then I had a motion from Mr. Chaky to adjourn. Second by Chuck. Oh, Phil?
Phil, no, Phil made the
Phil.
motion. Phil made the motion.
Second by Aldo. Thank you.
Arrivederci, as they say.
Have a good night.